If you're a fan of NFL content, you're probably no stranger to way too early draft content, right? The idea of a way too early mock draft or player profile or positional ranking, whatever it may be. There's plenty of examples of draft analysts making videos even before the college football season starts, planting their flag on different players or different team fits. It's a very, very common form of draft content. However, you never see way too late draft content. People talking about the draft after that, peak period of draft content, from the end of the NFL season all the way through the month of May, because once we get into June, it's really prediction season, talking about the NFL at large, what teams we think are going to be good, what players we think are going to be good, award predictions, things like that. No one really does the way too late draft content, but I'm here to change that because I am here to give you my way too late first round grades for the 2026 NFL draft. In this video, I'm going to go through all 32 first round picks, break down each one, give my analysis, give my thoughts, and then grade them, right? I meant to do this video back in April when engagement would be at its highest, but things happened. That just wasn't in the cards for me. So instead, this is getting uploaded in June, and I'm going to hope and pray that people are willing to watch a 2-hour-long draft video in the month of June about a draft that occurred almost 2 months ago. The odds of that are probably low, but I am very proud of the analysis in this video. I'm very proud of how this video turned out. So I do hope you stick around, you watch, you hear me out, you listen to me talk about your favorite team, your least favorite team, whatever it may be. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into my way too late first round grades for the 2026 NFL Draft. Starting us off here with the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders selected Fernando Mendoza. We all knew it was coming. This one's no surprise, obviously. And I'm going to tell you up front here, I'm not going to spend the same amount of time on every team, because for a pick like this, where it has been talked to death, I just don't have a lot more to add. We knew that Mendoza was going to be the Raiders quarterback. He was the best quarterback in this class by far. He is an accurate pocket passer who maybe is not the most special prospect we've ever seen at the quarterback position. He's a lot closer to a Bo Nix than he is a Caleb Williams as a prospect, which, I know Bo has done very well in the NFL. I was a big Bo Nix guy. This is not an insult. It's just that he doesn't have, the high-end arm talent or the crazy athleticism or play extension ability or anything like that. He's just a more traditional pocket passer. And there's nothing wrong with that. He is going to be very effective in the league. I do think his ceiling is like a top 10 to 15 quarterback. And we know that pocket passers can still survive in the NFL. You look at a guy like Joe Burrow, when he's upright, when he's healthy, he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in this league. I don't know that Mendoza's ceiling is quite that high, but he does have a lot of the traits you want. He has good field vision. He can get through full field reads when asked to do so. Didn't have to do it a whole lot at Indiana. But when he did, it was very promising. He has enough arm talent. He has enough escapability. My comp for him was like a Kirk Cousins, and I know that was a pretty popular comp. Kirk Cousins is there with the Raiders to be his mentor, and I think that's perfect. Kirk Cousins, when he was at his best, was a top 10 to 15 quarterback that was capable of making big plays and elevating the roster. Now, Kirk Cousins was very inconsistent. I think Mendoza does not have that inconsistency to his profile, which is a major win for him. So the Raiders here, I do think, got their franchise guy. I think Mendoza can absolutely be their quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. He's got some solid weapons around him. Brock Bowers is going to be healthy next year. Ashton Genty going into year 2. Offensive line's pretty solid. I don't know if he's going to be starting week 1. They might want to sit him a little bit. But if he does start week 1, I don't think he's in a horrible situation. Now, I don't know that he has the tools to necessarily take the Raiders to the playoffs or anything, but I do think he has enough to win this team like 6-7 games, and then you walk away and go, yeah, Mendoza looked like the guy. So with that, I am going to give this pick an A, and I think it's kind of hard to suggest it as anything but an A, unless you're really taking board value into account. But at the end of the day, the Raiders didn't have a quarterback. There was a quarterback worth taking in roughly the top half of the first round. They take him with the number 1 overall pick because there is a substantial gap between QB1 and QB2 in this class. Makes a ton of sense to me. Sure, he was the 14th best player on my board, but my board does not take positional value into account. Pound for pound, I thought he was the 14th best player in the class, but he also happens to play the most important position in football So I think it is more than worth the quote-unquote reach if you want to get nitpicky with that kind of thing. But perfect pick for the Raiders, saving the A-pluses for like steals and things of that nature. So not quite an A+, but definitely exactly what they needed, which is more than worthy of an A grade. With the second overall pick, the Jets selected David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech, and I'm going to be blunt and say that I did not like this pick. Now, if you are a Jets fan watching this video and you're thinking to yourself, well, I trust the front office more than I trust some kid on YouTube, totally fair. Like, I'm not going to fight you on that. I have been a Bears fan my whole life, so I have seen some draft picks that went against the consensus or people were not a fan of, and I too, when they were first made, was like, yeah, who cares? Because the reality of the situation is, if you're an NFL fan and you're not delusional during the draft, you're not doing it right, right? If you are just watching the draft to see what your favorite team does and you are not sitting there thinking they know better than everyone else and these experts, these people on the internet, whoever, their opinions do not matter. If you're not thinking that, you're probably not doing it right, because you do got to have a little bit of suspension of disbelief, a little bit of delusion to stomach the draft sometimes. But with that said, in my opinion, David Bailey was not a top 5 edge in this class. I just do not see his profile amounting to much more than like a designated pass rusher, like Robin, so to speak, right? I talk about edges as Batman and Robin. Batman, your true alpha, your Myles Garrett's, guys like that. Your Robins is more like a Will McDonald, who the Jets just traded away. Someone who is a good complementary piece, but realistically isn't necessarily going to be the top dog, isn't somebody that teams are game planning for. And David Bailey is that type of player, in my opinion, because you look at somebody who is like a finesse rusher, does not have a lot of power to his profile, has a slighter lower body, and he does not win with bend. Like, if you're going to be a finesse rusher, quote unquote, you got to have a certain level of bend. You got to be able to win around the arc, and David Bailey simply cannot. He is speed, a spin move, and a ghost move. That is it. That is all he has to his profile at the current moment. And with some of the other edge talent in this class, guys who do have that power profile or do have bend, taking David Bailey this high when he's just going to try to win with athleticism against guys that are much bigger, much stronger, much quicker than the guys he was going up against at Texas Tech, I just don't buy it. I don't see it. Like, sure, there is a world where David Bailey could continue to be a world beater, because I know he had crazy production at Texas Tech. That's what everyone's going to cling to. I am traits over production when it comes to draft prospects. That's how I view it, because I think those are easier to translate than numbers. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the guys you're going up against in college probably aren't NFL talent, right? There are guys that here in 2-3 years are going to be working 9-to-5s or in an office building or on a construction site or whatever. They're not going to be playing this sport at the highest level because they're just not good enough. And David Bailey was going up against a lot of guys that just aren't good enough to go to the next level. Take somebody who is winning purely with athleticism and put him up against the strongest and most athletic offensive lineman in the world, it's just not going to be as successful. That's not to say that David Bailey is going to get to the NFL and be a total non-factor. I think he will be good on passing downs as a pass rusher against, lesser offensive tackles, somebody that you can put in towards the end of a game when things are, kind of winding down. These offensive tackles have gone through hell and back in a game. You throw them David Bailey, who is super quick, does have a high motor, that can be an issue. The problem is that's not the guy you take at second overall when you have an Arvell Reese on the board or a Ruben Bain on the board. I know Bain fell because of character stuff, but it's not like David Bailey has raving character reviews either, If you're going to take a risk on somebody who has character stuff, why not take the guy who is a complete pass rusher, who can win with power? Or take Arvell Reese, who at worst case scenario is going to be a damn good off-ball linebacker. You have opportunities there, and instead you take David Bailey, who I simply cannot get behind. I do see why the Jets like him. I do see the appeal of him, but I see the appeal of him on day 2 or the end of the first round, not at second overall. So I'm going to give this pick a D+. And look, I'm going to be honest, this is the worst pick of the first round in my opinion. This is the lowest graded pick of the first round for sure. I don't think David Bailey is going to give you the return you want from the second overall pick. I would love to be wrong. I'm not rooting against David Bailey, but I really do not see how a player with his skill set, with his athletic tools and traits, can be a successful top-tier edge rusher in this league, which is what you're looking for with the second overall pick. I don't think you're getting that with David Bailey. I think he's going to be much more similar to a guy that the Jets already have in a Will McDonald, and that's not someone you want to take second overall. So this is like the one pick in the first round I really just cannot get behind at all. With the third overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals took running back Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. And I feel like with this pick, if you're an NFL fan, you're going to fall in one of two camps. Either you love it or you hate it. And I understand both, but I definitely fall in the love it camp. I really like this pick for the Cardinals. And while I do recognize the other side of the argument, you take a running back in the top 5, usually not a great decision, because if you're picking in the top 5, unless there are some extraneous circumstances surrounding the pick or you traded or whatever, you're probably not in position to bring in and maintain a star running back. Because at the end of the day, your offensive line's probably struggling. You probably don't have a quarterback, whatever, and you're going to be leaning heavily on the young running back, which we know, not great, right? We saw the Giants do it for years with Saquon. We saw the Raiders do it last year with Genti. Did not work out fantastic for either of those guys. However, with the Cardinals, you're building long-term. Like, you're not drafting Jeremiah Love with the expectation that he's going to transform your offense overnight. You're building long-term, and the rest of their draft really showed me that. They took 2 offensive linemen, most notably Chase Bizantis out of Texas A&M, who is not a guy I think can start right away, but definitely has super high upside and has all of the tools to be a mauler as a guard, right? Love and Bizantis, if Bizantis hits his ceiling, could be a pair of cornerstones for your offense, right? And the rest of your offensive line, like, not great, but isn't horrible. You have Paris Johnson, you have Yalti Froholt, you brought in Isaac Seumalo. You don't have that right tackle spot figured out. That's kind of the big weakness there. But other than that, if Bizantis can catch on sooner rather than later, you could have 4 out of 5 offensive line spots figured out, and I think that is perfectly fine to bring in a guy like Jeremiah Love behind. Additionally, it's not like they're going to be running him into the ground year one. They just paid Tyler Algier. They have James Conner on the roster. Trey Benson's still lurking around, maybe. So you have other options. It's not like you're drafting Jeremiah Love and going, hey, bud, 20 carries a game, get ready. 20 carries, 15 receptions, you are the offense. They're not going to use him like a running back in Madden. They are going to use him like a part of a committee, which is great for a young running back that keeps the tread off his tires, keeps the wear and tear down, and he can be a threat in the passing game. He can be a dynamic runner for you, and you can keep his legs fresh, minimize the chance that he does suffer the repercussions of a not complete offensive line. I think this is a great spot for Jeremiah Love. And again, long term, once things kind of settle, balance out, you get that other offensive lineman, you figure out the quarterback spot, Love can be like a true game changer for you. I think he has all the upside and all the talent of one of the 5 to 10 best running backs in this league. I went on record when I did my running back video saying that I really do think he is in league with Bijan Robinson, Ashton Genti, Saquon Barkley, whatever other prospect you want to look at over the last 10 or so years and say these are the best running backs that the NFL draft has had to offer. Jeremiah Love is right up there. And so taking him here at 3, I think is well worth it. You're at the top of the draft, you add talent. We were told 4 months this draft was not filled with star-studded talent. So you go out and you get somebody that, in my opinion, was one of the 3 best players in this class. And truth be told, you look at the guys that I had ahead of him, it's not like they were at super valuable positions. I think a lot of people would be pissed if they took Vega Ioane at 3 because he's a guard, and guards don't go that high. And Caleb Downs, the best player in the class, in my opinion, fell to 11. It's clear the league did not value safety super high. So why not take Jeremiah Love, right? I think he has the potential to be a game changer. As long as you do not run him into the ground his rookie year, I think there's a lot to like. So I'm going to give this pick a B. And I know I was just talking this up, and now all of a sudden I'm not even giving it an A. Trying to be a little stricter this year and not just hand out A's like candy. And I do think with this pick, there are things you can point at that I do find value in that are negative, right? Like with Mendoza, anything you're really pointing at with that pick being negative gets balanced out by he's a quarterback that is good and the Raiders do not have one. Whereas with Jeremiah Love, you can say their running back room was good enough, or this feels like the owner's meddling, or the Cardinals are not necessarily the team I have faith in to be the first team to take a running back high while bad and not mess it up because they are kind of an incompetent organization. If you feel any of those types of ways, I get that. And because of that, I cannot say this is an A pick, but I do think there is a very good chance in a very real world that this does not bite them in the ass. However, it still could. I could come back to this video in a year and be like, yeah, wow, I missed, But I think Jeremiah Love has superstar potential. I think he can be one of the best running backs in the league. And if the Cardinals play their cards right here, then I think this could end up super, super beneficial for this organization long term. With the 4th overall pick, the Tennessee Titans took Carnell Tate, the wide receiver out of The Ohio State University. And out of the top 4 or 5 picks, I would say this is probably the one I am most confident in working out, right? Because at the end of the day, Tate is a safe player, in my opinion. I really do think he is a high floor, low ceiling receiver that may never be Jackson Smith and Jigba, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, whoever you want to say, Jamar Chase, any of these top guys. I don't know that he's ever going to be one of those guys, but I do think he can be a mid to low tier number 1 that has a skill set that fits perfectly with Cam Ward. Cam Ward is somebody who likes to push the ball downfield, wants to take shots, and Carnell Tate is a true demon downfield. Like, he can create separation, he can beat guys over the top, but the most appealing part of his game is what he does at the catch point, how well he converts 50-50 balls into like 80-20 balls, how often he is able to haul in these contested catches is going to be a huge benefit for Tennessee. Like, you give Cam Ward a screw it, he's down there somewhere receiver, and you're going to see the benefits of Cam Ward's massive arm. That is a huge win for the Titans. Now, sure, Tate was not my top-ranked receiver. I do think Mekhi Lemon was a better prospect. But I do think Tate fits a lot better with Cam Ward, and that's going to be a huge benefit. That's going to be a huge deal for the Titans. I can see why they would have Tate, above Lemon. Tried to say Tate, tried to say Titans, tried to say Lemon all at the same time. My brain just had a moment. But no, Tate is a very good player, and he's not just like a deep ball guy. He's not this big hulking 6'5", 230-pound behemoth. He is like 6'2", closer to 200 pounds, and is smooth. He can run good routes, create separation at all 3 levels. He has a little bit of everything to his game as a wide receiver. Now, sure, again, I don't know that he has the upside of some of like the super high-end guys. Even like Mekhi Lemon in this class, I think could be a true superstar. I don't know that Tate is quite that, but you don't need him to be. You just need to have somebody that Cam Ward can rely on for now. And if Tate does not take a step and become like a super, super great wide receiver, then you worry about that down the line. You can draft another receiver here in 2, 3, 4 years, knowing that you'll have Tate and you'll have someone else. Think about what the Cincinnati Bengals did with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. I've seen a lot of people compare Carnell Tate to T. Higgins, and I do think there is some merit there. Not what I went with, because obviously Tate is a little smaller, but I do think the way they play and the type of player Tate can be is very similar. And so I like this pick quite a bit. Gonna go with a B+ here. Is going to be dinged just a little bit because of value and things like that. But at the end of the day, like, I think this is a tremendous pick, right? I think this is very, very good for the Titans. Anything above a B, you are doing very, very well. Even then, I would say a B is like the baseline of doing good. This is a very, very good pick for the Titans. I just do have to be consistent with the way I am going to grade some of the other picks. So he does get dinged slightly, but not a pick that I want to say anything truly negative about. I like this fit a lot. I think he's going to be great for Cam Ward. And at the end of the day, that is what matters the most here. With the 5th overall pick, the New York Giants selected Arvell Reese, the edge rusher / linebacker out of Ohio State. And I really like this pick. I don't really have much negative to say about it. Again, as I have said for the Tate pick that we just talked about, this will get dinged slightly, ever so slightly, for value. But I do think this is a very good pick. He makes a ton of sense for the Giants because you look at their first round pick last year, the edge rusher from Penn State, Abdul Carter, his name was escaping me there for a moment. The two of them have very similar profiles, converted linebackers who became edge rushers, kind of in that Micah Parsons mold. I don't know that I think either one will ever quite be Micah Parsons because that is a very, very high ceiling to clear. But if you get even 75% of Micah Parsons, that's a top 10 edge rusher in this league, right? So if you are hoping that Reese can be that, and you're saying what's better than one almost Micah Parsons, potential Micah Parsons, how about two potential Micah Parsons? That makes a ton of sense, right? I get that 100%. I've seen a lot of people look at this and go, well, you have Kayvon Thibodeau, you have Brian Burns. Why do you need another edge rusher? Well, Brian Burns last year, very productive, but wasn't super dominant and is not getting any younger. Kayvon Thibodeau, we've heard his name in trade rumors for like 2 years now, so his future with the Giants is far from a guarantee. This pick, I think, further solidifies both of those points. And on top of that, Reese doesn't have to play edge rusher right away. He can start out as an off-ball linebacker that comes downhill and blitzes, is going to be a good run defender. Maybe not the most instinctive coverage guy, but he can handle a shallow zone. He can handle, a very simple assignment in coverage. He can man up a tight end, whatever. I definitely think there is a way to get him on the field right away. The Giants came out and said that he was going to be playing linebacker right away. Makes a ton of sense. And then long term, even if it isn't till next year, I do think Reese can be a very exciting edge rusher for them. This is a guy who, despite saying himself he was not taught how to rush the passer, was super disruptive as a pass rusher. Didn't have much in terms of a bag or in terms of a plan, but again, when you take into consideration, he was basically told, hey, go get the quarterback and nothing else, that makes a lot of sense. Right, so he gets to come in, he will get to learn from Brian Burns, who is a veteran in this league. He will get to learn from Abdul Carter, who made the same switch he did. I definitely think this is a very good pick, makes a ton of sense. Like I said, with the second pick with David Bailey, this should have been the pick there. Getting him at 5, I think, is good for the Giants here. He was their best player available, as they said, makes a ton of sense to me. So with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and give this pick a B+. I do think Arvell Reese is a great fit for the Giants, but you take a look at the value on my board, 23rd ranked player, going 5th overall. Definitely got to ding him a little bit there, just for the sake of consistency, if nothing else, because it will become a bigger issue later on. And on top of that, there is a certain level of risk here, because if he does not work out as an edge rusher and you're taking Arvell Reese as a true linebacker, I don't know that I love him as a top 10 player, right? So there is that little bit of, I don't want to say bust potential, because I don't think Reese is going to full on bust, because he does have a floor as a linebacker, just not one that I'm super in love with. So we'll see how it pans out. I probably will end up eating my words very quickly, because Reese will pan out as an edge rusher, but you do have to consider all factors. You do have to consider all outcomes. And because of that, this is an A- grade for me, which is still really damn good. With the 6th overall pick, the Kansas City Chiefs went out and traded up to select Mansour Delane, the corner out of LSU. And I'm going to keep this one brief because I think this was fantastic. Straight up, giving it an A. I thought this was the perfect player in the perfect spot for the perfect team. Not only is it awesome to see him go to the Chiefs after that clip went viral of him, wanting to go to the Chiefs, seeing them trade up and going like, oh man, I wanted to go to Kansas City. They're not trading up to take me. And then they trade up to take him. Like, that was awesome. But even beyond that, the player himself is such a good fit for Kansas City, because you take a look at their secondary, they do not have a true alpha number 1 guy to build their secondary around. They just had Trent McDuffie, who is one of the better corners in the league. They trade him away. You go out and you replace him with somebody who could be argued to be at a higher value spot, because you have the debate nickel versus boundary. I know McDuffie played a little bit of both, but realistically, McDuffie was at his best as a true nickel. Delane is at his best as a boundary corner. He is somebody that can excel in man and zone, has really good field vision, really good feel for zone coverage. He has the athleticism and the fluidity to stick in a receiver's hip pocket and, make plays on the ball. He is a complete boundary corner that I really do think can be like a number 1 shutdown guy in this league. And you bring in Delane, you end up drafting Kennedy from Oregon, the nickel later on in this draft. You have Noel Williams, who I'm a big fan of. I think that's the makings of a very nice corner trio. And I know Chiefs fans I saw a lot of them this offseason talking about we should not draft a corner high, especially after they traded McDuffie because they develop corners well. But like, at the end of the day, it's a really good idea to just get a guy, drop him in, and then figure everything else out around him. Noel Williams is somebody I think you can continue to develop. Kennedy is someone I think you can develop. They have their developmental guys in the secondary. They also have somebody who I think can be like I said, I will keep reiterating it, a true number one corner in this league, an alpha, if you will. I thought Delane was easily the best corner in this class, especially after the news broke that McCoy's knee was a lot worse than we thought, caused him to fall to the 4th round. So you trade up, ensure you're getting the top corner in this class, somebody that I had a top 10 grade on. As I said at the top of this, easy A for me. Thought this was a fantastic fit, fantastic player. Just a really, really good job by Kansas City identifying a major need and attacking it accordingly. With the 7th overall pick, the Washington Commanders selected Sonny Styles, the linebacker out of Ohio State, and this was a fantastic pick for them. I was not nearly as blown away by Sonny Styles as a lot of people seem to be. I did not think, I don't think he's the next Fred Warner, as I've seen some people say. But I do think he's a very enticing draft prospect. These linebackers, we see guys go high and not pan out. You look at like a Devin White for prime example. Tremaine Edmonds has been solid, but never quite lived up to the hype that he was given when he was coming out and got drafted to the Buffalo Bills. There are a lot of linebackers who have gone high and just never quite hit their stride, never quite hit their ceiling. But Sonny Styles is going to such a perfect spot for what he is lacking. He is someone who has the athleticism and the size and the willingness to get dirty downhill, but his recognition is just behind the curve. He does not read the field as well as some of the other linebackers in this class or some of the other linebackers we've seen come out as of late. He does not read the field as well. He does not deconstruct blocks as well. His play recognition is not as high as a run defender. Like, he has struggles that are mental. And these are not deficiencies that cannot be fixed. These are highly teachable skills. These are things that you can, over time, help him learn and help him develop in. Like, if he can just learn how to recognize, okay, this key means it's going to be a run, or if the quarterback does this, then he's probably going to try to throw the ball to his left, or whatever, right? There's very baseline examples, but you get my point. There are very teachable things that Sonny Styles is lacking in. So where does he end up? He ends up with Dan Quinn, who is one of the best veteran defensive minds in this sport, and he ends up with Bobby Wagner, who is one of the smartest linebackers we have seen in the last 15 to 20 years. So Bobby Wagner, at his ripe age of 68, can help Sonny Styles learn the things that he is lacking in. Styles has the athleticism to still make plays as a young player, as a rookie. He is still going to be able to blow up a block and set up for Frankie Louvu to come flying in out of nowhere, or Nick Cross to come flying in out of nowhere. He still has the ability to, extend beyond his frame and catch a pass as a defender, intercept a pass, I should say. He can get in catching or passing windows and break passes up. He can show flashes of what you want to see. The consistency and the overall development are things that will be greatly helped by what he has around him. And beyond that, he has the athleticism and the frame and the ability to be like a pole runner in a Tampa 2, and he can stick to tight ends and man coverage because of his athleticism. He has a lot of what you want. He has all of the physical things you want. It's just about the development mentally, and I really do think he ended up in the perfect spot for that for him, so I'm going to give this pick an A. I would not have been as high on this pick if they did not have Bobby Wagner and even Frankie Louvu to a certain extent. I think Sonny Styles could become a better blitzer. Who better to teach you how to blitz as a linebacker than Frankie Louvu, right? You have those two guys, you have Dan Quinn. This is not a team that is expecting him to come in day one, wear the green dot, and be the captain of the defense. They recognize that he has some growing pains and has some things he needs to work out, and he is in such a good spot for that. So I thought this was a fantastic pick for Washington. Not to mention that, once again, like Jeremiah Love, his draft position lines up perfectly with where I had him on my board. And again, that doesn't really matter, but I do think it's a fun coincidence for a very fun player ending up in a perfect spot for him at the next level. With the 8th overall pick, the New Orleans Saints selected Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver from Arizona State, and I love this pick. I really do. And I know, wide receiver 3, not Mekhi Lemon, who was my wide receiver 1. I'm going to tell you right now, if Jordan Tyson did not have the injury red flags that he had, he would have been my wide receiver 1. I was obsessed with his profile. He is such a dynamic and fluid route runner with a good catch radius and a good understanding of zone coverages and how to find soft spots, make himself available. He can win at the catch point. He has like everything you want in an NFL receiver. He's only 21 years old, to add on to that point. I really think he has the potential to be an alpha wide receiver, like a truly special pass catcher at the NFL level. And you get to pair him up with Tyler Shuck, who I am a massive fan of. I love Tyler Shuck. I think he is going to be a very good quarterback in this league. Loved what I saw out of him as a rookie. Went on record last year saying he would have been my QB1 in that draft class had he not had his injury issues. So now you have Tyson and Shuck, two guys that I fell in love with but had to knock down my board a little bit because of health concerns. And the Saints say, screw the health concerns. We see talent. We want talent. And I really do think Tyson being added to a receiver room that consisted of Chris Olave and yours truly, basically, is a fantastic decision. He complements Olave pretty well, just another route running technician, maybe not as good as a true deep threat, but he doesn't need to be because you have Chris Olave who can truly take the top off the defense downfield. Tyson's going to be more of like it's 3rd and 6, we need 6 yards, who's getting open? It's going to be Jordan Tyson. We're in the red zone. We need someone to run a whip route to get open. Who's it going to be? It's going to be Jordan Tyson. He can beat man. He can get open against zone. He has it all. He's a tremendous receiver, and I think he is the perfect pick for the Saints. So with all of that said, I am going to give the Jordan Tyson pick an A-. Love the player, love the fit, definitely worthy of an A, but we are going to knock it just a little bit for the injury concerns. I'm sure the Saints have much better information about his medicals than I do, because they are a professional organization that has access to doctors and his medical records. I'm a 23-year-old college kid who has as much as the internet can give me, so, I'm sure they are a lot more comfortable with the medicals. Great for them. I hope to God they're right. Not because I think this will be some horrific pick if they're wrong, but because I'm a big Jordan Tyson fan. I want to see him succeed. So, A- for me. If he stays healthy, he's going to be the best receiver from this class. If not, then that really sucks. But we are going to hope for the best because I would hate to see it go any other way. With the 9th overall pick, the Cleveland Browns selected Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle from the University of Utah. And I am very conflicted with Fano as a prospect because on one hand, I do really like his technique and his ability to mirror as a pass blocker and his overall athleticism and like how polished he is overall as a pass blocker with flashes of being a good run blocker. However, we are talking about an offensive lineman with just over 32-inch arms, which is very, very short by NFL standards for a tackle, somebody that worked out at guard and at center, for different teams as well. And more importantly than that, I would say, is how passive Fano is as a player. And I'm not trying to say that he's soft or that he doesn't try, because he absolutely does. Like, he is somebody that consistently blocks through the whistle and will bury a guy in the dirt if given the opportunity. But he doesn't do it nearly as often as you would like, and he doesn't, ever initiate first contact. He is somebody that as a pass blocker is very comfortable with catching edge rushers, and then as a run blocker, kind of the same thing. He will get to his spot and stand, wait for somebody to come to him instead of initiating that contact. He always deploys his hands a little bit later than you'd like to see, and that passiveness is really concerning because against bigger, stronger, faster NFL pass rushers or downhill run defenders, you need to set the rules of engagement. You cannot play passive as an NFL lineman. And again, I really want to hammer home, I'm not calling this guy soft because he's not. He is now an NFL offensive lineman. You cannot be soft. If you are an NFL offensive lineman, you would not get this far. He was a top 10 pick for a reason. There's a lot to like about Fano as a player, but I really cannot stress how concerned I am about his lack of, I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. He's not like a go-getter, I guess you could say, if that makes sense. Like, he really does not want to set the tone. He does not want to dictate what's going to happen on a given play with his matchup. He is very comfortable saying, okay, you come to me and I will react, right? He's more reactionary than proactive, and I don't love that. Like, point blank period, I don't. Now, on the positive side, you're getting a guy that could hypothetically play all 5 positions on the offensive line. Played right tackle most of his career, played a little bit of left tackle as a freshman at Utah. Has the traits to play guard. Again, teams worked him out as a center as well. Like, Cleveland is getting a day one plug-and-play offensive lineman, so I cannot complain too much. I mean, I did have this guy as the 15th best player in the class, had a true first-round grade on him, but I am really, really concerned about what his passiveness is going to look like against NFL competition. Now, if Cleveland gets him in the room and says, hey, bud, figure this shit out, right? Then we could be having a completely different conversation, and Fano could be a fantastic pick. But that is asking a guy to change a lot of his mindset, and that's easier said than done, right? So I think at the end of the day, I am going to give this one a B. I think Fano's a good player. I think it's a good fit for Cleveland. But number one, I thought there was a better tackle guard hybrid player if you really wanted that profile in this class that we will talk about with the next pick. And if you are committed to playing Fano as a guard, which I haven't seen anything that suggests they are, just purely as a hypothetical, Vega Ioane would have been a way better pick. So Maui Noa or Ioane, I think, would have been very, very good picks here at number 9. Instead, you walk away with Fano, who could be very good, but you need a big change. You need a massive, massive overhaul of his mentality towards the game. And like I said, that's a lot easier said than done. So we'll see how it pans out. Fano could end up being fantastic. I know Brandon Thorne was a big Fano guy, and at the end of the day, if you want to trust his word over mine, I totally get that, but I'm going off what I saw with my own eyes, and what I saw was inspiring, but I don't think worth a top 10 pick, and definitely not better than the guy we're about to talk about. With the 10th overall pick, the New York Giants made their second selection of the first round, taking Francis Maui Noa, the tackle/guard out of Miami. And I'm making a point to say tackle/guard because it looks like the Giants are going to be playing him at guard. Now, I did have Maui Noa listed as a tackle because I do think he could absolutely play tackle at the next level. But with the Giants and the way their offensive line is set up, they want to play him at guard right away, and I think that is totally manageable. I think that's a very good idea. Get him introduced to the league as a guard to help make up for some of the deficiencies with his arm length. We're talking about 33.25-inch arms. Not fantastic there. But with that and the fact that he doesn't get a lot of depth, like in his kick sets as a pass blocker, which you just don't need when you're a guard, it's not as important, not as big of a thing. You're not guarding the entire outside like you are at tackle. I absolutely love this pick. I think it's great value. I think it's a great player, and I think he's a great fit. This Giants offensive line needs to be better. John Michael Schmidt's a guy who I was super high on a couple years ago. Really hasn't panned out for them. Andrew Thomas has hurt a lot. Jermaine Eluemunor is fine, but nothing to write home about. They need a true ass kicker up front for when Andrew Thomas goes down. You look at this offensive line, when Andrew Thomas is not on the field, it's one of, if not the worst in the league, pretty consistently. Now you have 2 guys that I think you can hang your hat on, and it's still not ideal, but you're taking the right steps. And on top of that, I do think when Andrew Thomas goes down inevitably, which knock on wood, we hope he doesn't, but it is kind of historically likely, when it does happen, I think you can kick Maui Noa to left tackle and just say, screw it, we're going to make sure the best player on our line is our left tackle at all times. And I think there is value to that. I think there is merit to that. Maui Noa is a strong run blocker, great size, really good mover relative to his size, super smart, quick off the ball as both a run blocker and pass blocker, very good mirroring ability, plays with agile feet, really good anchor. He has that core strength to make that transition to guard and handle big boy defensive tackles, right? And, he can be a little out of control against the run sometimes, but he's 20. That is something you're absolutely willing to live with. He has the will and the power, and when he connects, my goodness, as a run blocker, right? If you can reel him in a little bit, then hell yeah, you are cooking with gas, right? So I think Maui Noah is going to be a really, really exciting player for the Giants. And I know I've already seen some people make the comparison to the last time the Giants held 2 top 10 picks. They took an offensive lineman and an edge rusher, and both of them ended up failing. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I do not think history is going to repeat itself, because I do think Arvell Reese is a very, very exciting prospect with very high upside, and I think Maui Noah, day one, can be an ass kicker for you with the potential to become even more of an ass kicker, right? He has the technique, he has the movement, he has a lot of the power. Kicking him into guard to minimize the one big weakness of his game, and his arm length is huge. That's a big win. And even then, if he has to play tackle, or if the long-term goal is to play him at tackle, I think you're cooking with gas. I think he's a very good player. Like I said, he was the second best offensive lineman in the class for me. So I'm going to give this one an A. I thought this was a fantastic pick for the Giants. Good value, good player, good fit. Everything lines up perfectly. Everything lines up the way it should. And the Giants are walking away very happy with this one. With the 11th overall pick, the Dallas Cowboys selected Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State. And listen, this is the best player in this draft class, full stop. You get him at the 11th overall pick, you have to trade up, but barely, you don't give up much, and you get the best player in the entire class at pick 11. You get him outside of the top 10. This is an A+ for me. I love Caleb Downs. Like I said, I thought he was the best player in this class, and I am far from the only one who felt that way. He's a true blue chip, if not generational safety prospect. The best, maybe second best safety I've seen in the 4 or so years I've been doing this. It is him and Kyle Hamilton. And I know I'm not giving anybody new information. This is something that a lot of people have said. I'm not sitting here trying to act like I'm the only one who sees it with Caleb Downs or anything. But he's tremendous, man. I mean, he is just unbelievable. The way he sees the field and his overall play recognition are truly reminiscent of the all-time greats, like an Ed Reed, for example. When I made my YouTube short about Caleb Downs, when I did my little profile on him, I mentioned that, like, people kind of compare him to Ed Reed, and I don't think that's a great comparison for their overall, like, full profile, but I do think the play recognition and the way he sees the field are definitely reminiscent of Ed Reed, who is probably the greatest coverage safety of all time. Downs sees the field so incredibly well from different alignments. He can play the slot, he can play as a box safety, a split safety, he can play as a single high safety. I think you could even get away with putting him on the perimeter for a few plays if you really needed to, right? So I think he's tremendous. I think he is a perfect fit for this Dallas defense as a split safety that can do a little bit of everything for you. He's a good run defender as well. Maybe not the best at deconstructing blocks, but he has the play strength and the willingness. Teach him how to do it, you're cooking with gas. His recognition's great, takes good angles. I mean, he's about as close to a perfect safety prospect as you're going to get, and he's coming out at the perfect time, or I should say, existing at the perfect time. Like, we know now, positionless football, having safeties that can do a little bit of everything is more popular now than it ever has been, and Downs is like the prototype for that. Sure, he doesn't have the massive size that like Kyle Hamilton did coming out, but he has more athleticism and is just as physical and is able to get downhill against the run and can make plays sideline to sideline. He's so incredible. He is so unbelievably incredible, and the fact that the NFL let him fall to 11 baffles me. I don't care about positional value in a class where everyone and their mother agreed that this class was not fantastic, that this was not some world beater class where there were 15 blue chip players or whatever. Everyone kind of agreed it was pretty weak outside of the top guys, or at the very least, everyone from like 15 to 70 were on pretty even playing field. The fact that Caleb Downs was not a top 5 pick will forever baffle me. Now, Dallas reaps the benefits of it because a lot of people thought they were going to trade up super high to take an edge rusher or whatever. They get somebody better than any of the edge rushers in this class, and they barely had to move. This is an A+. This is the best pick of the first round, full stop. Just absolutely incredible for the Dallas Cowboys. A wonderful player that's going to sell a ton of jerseys. I know he's not Micah Parsons, but like in terms of Jerry Jones's brain of I need to put butts in seats and sell jerseys and get people talking about the Dallas Cowboys, this is about as good as you're gonna get with, what you had and what you were able to put yourself in a position to get. Him and Quinnen Williams, those are defensive cornerstones. Those are guys that you can hang your hat on and say, listen, if you're an opposing offense, good luck. So I know I've been ranting forever now. This is a really straightforward pick, but God, I love Caleb Downs. And I think he's going to fit in so well with Dallas. So like I said, A+ pick, perfect player, perfect fit. Just tremendous luck for the Dallas Cowboys having him fall this far, and good on them for seizing the opportunity and trading up to get him. With the 12th overall pick, the Miami Dolphins selected Caden Proctor, the offensive lineman out of the University of Alabama. And I say offensive lineman because I evaluated him as a tackle. He played tackle in college, and it looks like Miami's going to play him at guard, at least to start his career. And I want to come on here first and foremost in defense of Caden Proctor, the player. Because there are a lot of people out there who have a really poor opinion of Caden Proctor that think he outright sucks. And I don't think that's accurate at all. I think you turn on the tape, Caden Proctor was a victim of Alabama's unreasonable expectations for him and struggled because of that. Bama had him playing at like an absurd weight. We're talking like 370. I've seen some people even say closer to 380. That's insane. Right? I get that Bama wants to have these big hulking tackles or whatever, but that's unreasonable. You're playing offensive tackle, left tackle, mind you, for one of the premier colleges in the nation, going up against the best pass rushers the country has to offer at the collegiate level. And this poor guy couldn't move. And that's not a slight at Proctor, because I don't know of many people, if any people, that would be able to move at the weight they had him listed at. He could not pick up his feet, he could not get out in space, he could not get the depth he needed in his kick sets, he couldn't do anything that required him to move consistently. And so a lot of people have this really poor understanding of Proctor as a player because they look at that and they don't consider the context of this guy is not going to be playing at that weight at the next level. In fact, at the Combine, he weighed down closer to 350. He was in the 350s, and I've heard reports that they might ask him to play even smaller. That would be big for him on paper. Now, I will say, just to be fair, there is a world where he slims down and he's still not the best mover. Like, that could just not be a part of his game. But hypothetically, he would actually be able to pick up his feet and move at any rate, which he could not do at Alabama. So, should be a positive. How much of a positive? We'll see long term. Other than that, though, really good hand fighter, really good anchor. He showed some flashes of being able to mirror a little bit. And a lot of the speed issues aren't nearly as important if he's playing guard. Like, you won't need him to mirror edge rushers or get deep into his kick sets or anything if he's at guard, because he can just hold his ground. He can tap into that anchor, and that will be greatly beneficial. All of that being said, though, when you look at the value, because I had a mid round 2 grade on Proctor, you look at some of the players available, I don't love the pick. I think it's a fine pick. I definitely see the vision, but I would have much rather have seen Miami take a Vega Ioane, who I think is incredible, and we'll talk about when we get to Baltimore. I am going to rave about that man. I would have much rather have seen them take a Vega Ioane if they wanted a guard. And if they wanted a tackle, Maxi Honachor, Monroe Freeling, even Caleb Lomu or Blake Miller, I think those would have been much better picks. Instead, you take Proctor, who I do recognize is only 20 years old and has high upside theoretically, but I think there were better options available. Do I think this is the worst pick in the world? No. Do I think Proctor can be a good NFL lineman? Absolutely. I do not want to sit here and make it seem like I'm writing him off or I think he sucks like some people do. I really do not. I think he can be a good NFL lineman. I just don't love the value, I don't love the spot, and I don't love the fact that they took him over some of these other guys. So I've gone back and forth a little bit, but I landed on a C- grade for the Caden Proctor pick. Again, I think Proctor can be very good, and I might be eating my words long term, but this could also be another Mekhi Becton situation. So we'll have to see what happens. Alabama linemen don't have a great track record. I promise that isn't really playing into my grade. I scout the player, not the helmet, but it is worth noting. And we'll have to see how Miami feels. But they ended up nailing the rest of their draft, which we'll talk about here, in a few weeks when I get around to doing my full draft grades. So maybe it won't matter at the end of the day. But I do think there is a lot of upside with Proctor. I see the appeal. I just think they would have been better off going a different direction. With the 13th overall pick, the Los Angeles Rams selected Ty Simpson, the quarterback out of Alabama. And hoo boy, this one is a doozy. There's a lot of big opinions about this one. Some good, most bad. And honestly, I kind of fall somewhere in the middle with this one. Because don't get me wrong, I think this was a reach. And I don't think this was the best pick the Rams could have made. On the flip side, though, I do see their thought process. Because we are looking at the Rams, we're looking at a team that wants prolonged success. This is a team that has done a lot to ensure they can stay competitive through 2 different quarterbacks. Why not try to make it 3, right? You had Goff, you were competitive with Goff, you trade him, get Stafford, you've been competitive with Stafford. We've been talking for a few years now about who was going to be Stafford's heir apparent, who was going to take over the Rams when he inevitably retires. And we've thrown out so many names. Anthony Richardson, people have brought up Trey Lance, I've heard Joe Milton. Any sort of like developmental quarterback that you've seen, Malik Willis, any quarterback that has traits but is behind the curve in terms of their processing or whatever it may be, any one of those guys, we have heard time and time again, they'd be perfect for the Rams. This would be a perfect Rams pick. Jalen Milroe, another prime example. This would be the perfect pick for the Rams at whatever, right? And then the Rams finally go and do it. They finally draft the quarterback that they think is going to be the successor to Matt Stafford. And it just feels so underwhelming. Because what do all the guys that I just mentioned have in common? Traits. Big-time athletic traits. Whether it be true speed, rushing ability, big arm, they have some sort of big boy traits that you want to bank on, you want to put your faith in, and figure out the rest, right? Ty Simpson does not have that. He has a fine NFL arm. He's not a tremendous athlete. He is undersized. He's already 23 years old, and he has some injury history issues, He does not have this like super good intangible profile that you can build off of, right? He is Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, he's... I know that's been a very popular comp for him. Bo Nix, Brock Purdy, like these guys who are passable, but you're not scared of their arm. You're not scared of their legs. And Bo Nix was a first-round pick because he was a tremendous processor and was ready to play day one. Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, and Kyle Shanahan managed to elevate him into a very good quarterback. Ty Simpson, taking him with the 13th overall pick, feels like a mistake. Because he's not going to be starting right away, probably not going to be starting for like 2 more years, and he is so behind the curve with consistency and with making full field reads and just understanding the offense. So you're looking at a developmental quarterback with middling upside being taken 13th overall, by the Super Bowl favorite. Like, a lot of people are looking at the Rams as like the it team this year, and for good reason. They have a loaded roster with very few holes. And then the Rams went out and made this roster even more talented by trading for Myles Garrett as I am in the middle of editing this video. And I'm going to be honest, this has made me hate how long it's taken me to make this video more than anything else, because now I have to sit here and justify giving Ty Simpson a mediocre grade when it was made apparent by the Rams that they wouldn't have traded for Myles Garrett had they not gotten Ty Simpson. Right? Like, I'm really trying hard to not just say, fuck it, move on because this got them Myles Garrett, right? And I know a lot of people are going to look at it that way in hindsight, and that's fine. You know, I get that. I can't blame you, but I do have to stick to my guns. I do have to say, listen, I still think this player is not worth a top 15 pick. We're looking at just the pick of Ty Simpson in a vacuum. I think it was a mediocre move. My initial grade for it was a D+, but I am going to bump it up to a C+ because of the Myles Garrett move. I think bumping it up a full letter grade is a worthwhile change. That being said, I still think the Rams reached here. I still don't think Ty Simpson is a guaranteed long-term starter in this league. I do think the reality of him being a Jimmy Garoppolo type player is relatively high. Now, Sean McVay is a great coach. Maybe he gets something more out of Ty Simpson. But taking a middling traits quarterback that doesn't have like an elite processor and elite accuracy and things like that this high, I really struggle with. So again, it's muddy for me in hindsight waiting so long to make this video because now I have to consider the fact that they traded for Myles Garrett. But I really, really think a C+ is a very fair grade for this pick. With the 14th overall pick, the Baltimore Ravens selected Vega Ioane, the guard from Penn State. And this is one of those ones that everyone kind of had penciled in, right? Like if he was going to be available at 14, he was going to be a Baltimore Raven. I did some mock drafts. I did one on the channel, notably, where he didn't make it to 14, but if he was there at 14, we all pretty much knew he was going to end up in Baltimore. And Baltimore makes the pick, did the right thing here, and I'm just going to tell you straight up, this is an A+ for me. Like, this is the second best player in the entire class. In my opinion, the best guard prospect we have seen since Quentin Nelson. Somebody that is going to plug and play day one and maybe be the best player on the Ravens offensive line. That might be pushing it a little bit because Ronnie Stanley is still a very good player, but he'll be number 2, if not. Like, he is so incredible. He has everything you want out of a guard. He's only 21 years old. He's got a strong, thick frame with arms that aren't super long, but they're super strong, which makes up for it. He gets off the ball quickly in both phases as a run blocker and as a pass blocker. He has enough agility and foot speed to get out in space and pull or reach block if needed. He can do the gap stuff. He can do the zone stuff. His play strength is off the charts. He's super smart. His hand usage is great. His footwork is great. His anchor's fantastic. Keeps consistent pad level. He's good on combo blocks. He's a people mover in the run game with just a killer demeanor. I mean, he hates defenders. He hates them. It is so fun to watch. You look at some of the plays that he was able to make. You look at some of the blocks he was able to put on display. The one I always go to is the one where they had him lined up out at receiver and he pulls across the line and just decimates a guy. That's one of the most fun blocks I've ever seen in my life. He's so fun. He's so awesome. But on top of all of that, he has the traits, he has the demeanor, he has the strength and athletic tools. He has all of that. And he also has the production to back it up. This man has not allowed a sack in 2 years. He played at Penn State. He was going up against NFL level talent, real defenses, some of the best defenses in the country, and he did not allow a sack in 2 years. He is tremendous. Realistically, the only negatives I can say is he's not like the fastest guard in the world. But oh well, like, you'll live with that. You will absolutely live with that. He is going to be a plug-and-play fit for Baltimore. Tremendous football player. I thought, like I said, the second best player in the class behind Caleb Downs. A true blue chip player. And I think this is an A+ for Baltimore. This is one of the best picks of the draft. One of my favorite picks of the first round. Just such a perfect player fit in terms of scheme and need and also culture. Like, he just feels like a Baltimore Raven. He feels like one of these ass kickers that when you line up across from him, you're throwing up prayers like, please do not kill me. Please allow me to get through this game intact because Vega Ioane hates me and wants me to die. Like, he is so amazing, so tremendous. Cannot wait to see him playing at the NFL level. And I know losing Tyler Linderbaum is huge and really sucks for Baltimore, but you got a brand new ass kicker in the middle of your offensive line. So maybe not 1-to-1, but definitely a very, very good rebound for Baltimore's offensive line. With the 15th overall pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected Ruben Bain Jr., the edge rusher out of Miami. And we are going to start out by addressing the elephant in the room first, and that is the information we all received as the public right before the draft about Ruben Bain being involved in a situation that cost a young woman her life. I'm re-recording this bit in post because I want to make sure I cover my bases as well as I can here because this is a very sensitive topic. Ruben Bain was involved in an incident that cost a young woman her life, as I said, and I don't think that should cost him his NFL career. The reason I say that is because, number one, the victim's family came forward and said as much. They want Ruben Bain to go on, live his life, have a good career, all those good things. And number two, from what we know about the incident, it seems like an accident. Ruben Bain was driving, rear-ended somebody, his car swerved, he hit a divider, a concrete divider in the road, and the young woman who lost her life, she was not wearing a seatbelt, was launched out of the car, went into a coma, and then passed away a few months later. None of that screams Ruben Bain is a horrible, irredeemable person that should not be allowed to step foot on an NFL field. At least not to me. The family's on board. If an NFL team was willing to take him in the top 15, and what we know is that this situation was an accident, then, who am I to say that Ruben Bain shouldn't get to play? I feel like most people are in that boat. I haven't really seen anyone say that, like, he shouldn't have an NFL career, but I did want to cover my bases just in case, because I am somebody who takes pride in my willingness to call people out and call athletes out for doing terrible things. But I just don't think this is an example of that. So with that, looking at Ruben Bain as a player, as a young man who was involved in a tragedy, this is a fantastic pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a team that has been looking for help off the edge for a while now, and they land, in my opinion, the best edge rusher in this class. I think Bain is a tremendous player. I don't care about the arm length. I really do not, because he has ways to win in spite of that. Right? We're talking about a guy who has sub 31-inch arms, but they're so strong and so filled out that they actually work to his advantage in some situations where he is able to use them to bolster his bull rush. And if you can win with power at the NFL level as a pass rusher, you're cooking with gas. If you can get your hands into a tackle's chest and drive him back, you are going to find a lot of success. So I think this is big for Bain, having that in his bag, while also having a decent arsenal of moves and some counter moves and the ability to win with speed, the ability to bend a little bit. He has it all, really, as a pass rusher. He's only 21 years old. He has good, weight, good mass for the position at 263 pounds. He's exciting, man. I really think he can be a true top dog alpha edge rusher in this league. Somebody who can be the centerpiece of your defensive line, the guy that other teams game plan for and open up. Kalijah Cansey or whoever, Yaya Diaby. They got their guy. They get him at 15. That's tremendous value. That's a tremendous pick. He was a top 5 player in the class for me until the reports of the car accident came out, at which point I moved him down my board, and then I ended up moving him back up once we got a little bit more information. So, top 10 player for me, get him at 15. Great player, great value. I'm going to give this an A because I don't think it's a full-on steal, as I do recognize why he fell. But honestly, man, not to go on a whole other rant, but if there are guys like Deshaun Watson and Mike Green and James Pierce still playing in the NFL despite what they've done, and we have way more information about their situations, and the victims have come forward and been able to speak, and they're not in the forgiving mindset that this family is. If those guys are allowed to play in the NFL, then why the hell is Ruben Bain any different, right? I think Ruben Bain is not nearly as bad of an offender as guys like that. But it's still an accident at the end of the day. It's a tragedy, it's an accident, it's a horrible thing that happened, but I do not think it should derail what seems to be the start of a very promising young career. With the 16th overall pick getting us to the halfway point of the first round, the New York Jets selected Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon. And I know I was pretty harsh with their first selection, but this one I like substantially more. I think they did a great job landing Sadiq here with the 16th pick. Had him as a top 10 player in the class, lands at 16. I know tight end, not a super high value position, whatever, don't care. He's a great football player, man. He is so good, and he fits so well in their offense. I know I've seen people complain about this pick saying they just took Mason Taylor last year. Totally different players. Sadiq and Taylor could not be more different. Taylor has the build to be like a true inline tight end. Sadiq is a wing tight end. He is a move tight end, an F even, just like a movable offensive chess piece, similar to like a Delaney Walker, who was another undersized tight end that made a lot of really good plays as a pass catcher because you can force matchups with him and line him up in different spots that allow you to maximize his talent. Sure, you're not going to line him up as a true inline tight end. He's not going to be somebody that is going to move a defensive end off the line or anything like that. but he's not supposed to be. That's not what you're drafting him for. You're drafting him to line him up as an H-back, as a slot receiver, as a wing tight end, as a fullback even. Just a bunch of different things you can do with him. And you say, this is an offensive weapon. This is going to help whoever our quarterback is. They've got Geno Smith. I guess it's going to help Geno Smith. And you reap the benefits of it. It's another talented pass catcher in a room that definitely could use it. You have Garrett Wilson. You have Adonai Mitchell, who I'm not willing to give up on yet, but has not proven anything. And you've got Breece Hall. Like, those are your three guys. Two of them are proven players, and one of them is a running back that catches passes out of the backfield that doesn't particularly like your team right now, it seems like. So, you go out, you get Sadiq, who at this point, I would say was the second best pure pass catcher on the board, but definitely the best tight end. Good athlete, good strength despite not being the biggest guy because his frame is fully filled out with muscle. He has these moments of like true highlight reel grabs. He's a good route runner. He can find soft spots against zone. He is a seam beater, good contact balance after the catch, and he's a good blocker. Like, again, he's not somebody you're lining up against Myles Garrett and saying, have fun, but he is somebody that can take on linebackers and safeties and corners and win. And honestly, I think he would be very effective as a chip blocker against a Myles Garrett or some other big name pass rusher, whoever you want to point out, because he has the willingness and the power. His frame, again, really good play strength. And he has good grip strength and he's a good lead blocker with a really good targeting system out in space. He climbs to the second level well. He has good grip strength. Like, he has a lot of the blocking stuff. Again, you're just not expecting him to be an inline blocker, but as a move blocker, as an H-back, a wing tight end, a slot receiver, a fullback, he can do all of that stuff. And he has experience at tight end, receiver, fullback, and even a little bit of tailback. He took handoffs for Oregon and was effective. Like, this is a very talented offensive weapon that I think, I hope by now people have come around to, but I remember on draft night there were a lot of really negative opinions, and I hated that. I think this is an A pick. I think this is great for the Jets. This is exactly what I would have done here. As much as I like Mekhi Lemon and think he's a better overall player, I think Sadiq fits more of what the Jets need and will do more for their offense, which is a massive, massive win for them. So, tremendous pick, very good player, very good fit, and I would say definitely in part makes up for the pick they made at number 2, and we'll talk about the other pick that I think goes a long way towards that as well here in a little bit. With the 17th pick, the Detroit Lions selected Blake Miller, the offensive tackle out of Clemson. And this one I like, but I don't love, because I do think this was a bit early for Blake Miller, but it did start your run on tackles. So I do understand the thought process. I understand the appeal. I just look at Blake Miller and I say, look, very exciting player, very good upside, but I have a lot of reservations, especially with his hand usage. He is so far behind the curve with his hands, and it creates a lot of problems for him. Because you look at the size here for Blake Miller. This is a guy who is 6'7", 317 pounds, and has north of 34-inch arms. He is a big, hulking player, and the best thing that defenders can do against these big, hulking players is get up in their chest. Blake Miller, as it stands, not great at protecting his chest. If he does not get better at that, he is going to get beat often. He is going to get bull rushed. He is going to get thrown around, and that is something that needs to improve. That being said, he does have the size. He has the athleticism. He has the anchor, the football IQ, the aggression, the tenaciousness. He has a lot of what you want in a franchise tackle. And with the Lions moving Penei Sewell to left tackle after the departure of Eric Decker, Blake Miller makes sense as a right tackle for this team. I think he will fit in as a day one starter and has the upside to get even better. I think right away he will have his growing pains, he will have some issues, but Penei Sewell is a hell of a guy to be learning from, right? He is a fantastic offensive lineman, and Miller, again, has a lot of the intangibles that you want and is a refined player in a lot of other places. Good footwork, good mirroring ability, really good run blocker. I like Blake Miller a decent bit. I just thought this was early for him. I also thought there were tackles that I would have taken over him. You look at a Monroe Freeling, you look at a Maxi Hanachor. Those guys were, to me, much more appealing prospects and guys that I had a true first-round grade on. So with Blake Miller going to the Lions, I don't have a lot to say about this one. I think it's a good player, good fit, makes sense, but I am going to give it a B because, again, I do think there were better players available, and this was a little bit early for me. That being said, I think he has all the tools to have a very successful career as a Detroit Lion, and at the end of the day, that's all you're looking for. With the 18th pick, the Minnesota Vikings shocked the world and took Caleb Banks, the defensive tackle out of Florida. And look, I'm going to talk about the good first, because I feel like everyone is really focused on the negative with Caleb Banks, and we will talk about that, but we're going to start with the good. This is a very, very good defensive tackle. When everything came together, especially in 2024, Banks was probably the best defensive tackle in the country. He was playing way more agile and nimble than a guy at 6'6", 327 pounds should be playing at, with fantastic play strength, a really good first step, active hands, a good bag of moves, flashes of a bull rush, and then in the run game, I mean, really good contact balance. He was a quick penetrator. He has really strong hands, and he was able to jolt blockers upright. Like, he is such a good pass rusher as a defensive tackle. There is a lot to like there. He is somebody who I have seen like Chris Jones comparisons thrown out. I mean, I do see like shades of Chris Jones. I do see the vision there when he was at his best. There was a little bit of that there in the way he moved and the way he was able to win. He is an exciting defensive tackle. And I can absolutely see why Brian Flores, after the Vikings cut both Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, I can see why Flores turned around and said, that's my guy, we're taking him at 18, full stop, right? I can fully understand why Brian Flores would say that, because he is the perfect fit as like that true big boy defensive tackle in the middle of Brian Flores' defense. It's what he was trying to get Jonathan Allen to do, and Allen just didn't have the skill set to do it. Like, Allen was a true, pure pass rusher. By the time he got to Minnesota. Banks is a good run defender. Like, he is somebody that can game wreck against the run, whether it is stacking and shedding, shooting the gap, setting up for guys around him with his giant frame. Like, he can do that as well. The problem here is just the health. We're talking about a guy at 327 pounds who has multiple foot injuries. That is far from ideal, certainly. Like, there is so much stress and wear and tear on your lower body when you are this big and move as much and as effectively as Caleb Banks does, to the point where you have to wonder how likely it is that those continue to pop up. Banks missed all but 3 games last year because of these foot injuries, and I know the report came out right before the draft that he was going to be ready for week 1. That's great. This is not about, oh, he's hurt now, how long will it take him to come back? This is about how likely is it that these continue? How likely is it that his feet continue to be a problem? How much time is he going to miss over the next 5 years with foot injuries? And we, as the public, simply do not have an answer to that. Now, Minnesota clearly is comfortable with that answer, and they have better medicals than I do because, again, like we talked about with some of the guys earlier, they are an NFL franchise. I am some guy that uses the internet to learn what these guys' health histories are and what they're dealing with now. I only know as much as the rest of you when it comes to their health. So we're taking a big swing here with the Vikings. They are banking heavy on Banks staying healthy, and that is a massive risk. Because again, at 327 pounds, the amount of stress that is put on his feet day to day, not even playing football, just moving around, is huge. And to have, I don't want to say weak or brittle feet, because that's kind of insulting, but to have multiple injuries in those feet that could be re-aggravated, it's scary. I mean, it is straight up scary. There is a lot of risk here, but I do think Banks, when healthy, was easily a top 20 talent in this class and has tremendous upside. So I'm going to give this pick a C+. I see the vision, I see the upside, love the player when he's healthy, but I am scared of the health. I think that there is a world where Banks is healthy for the rest of his career. This isn't a problem, and the Vikings reap the benefits, but I also definitely see the world where this continues to be a lingering problem. We're going, man, why didn't they just take Dylan Thielman? Like, and we'll talk about him. Thankfully, they didn't, for my sake as a Bears fan, but like, if Banks is healthy, as a Bears fan, I'm terrified. Like, this is a horrifying player for Minnesota to get a hold of. But again, the health is such an issue. So we'll see how this ages. It will age as well as Banks' health will allow it. But again, really good pass rusher, good run defender, polished player. Just got to make sure he can stay on the field if you're Minnesota. With the 19th pick, the Carolina Panthers selected Monroe Freeling, the tackle out of Georgia. And I loved this pick. This is who the Lions should have taken at 17, in my opinion, because Freeling is a stud. We're talking about a guy who is still only 21 years old, 6'7", 316 pounds, nearly 35-inch arms for a potential franchise tackle. I mean, he's a great athlete, has the size, has the play strength. He's explosive off the line in both phases, plays with really good hand usage and pass pro, flash to snatch and trap technique that just blew me away when it all came together. Really good anchor despite being tall and a little bit leaner. He's willing to find work in pass pro. Just a really good player who is a little bit inexperienced. He only started 18 games at Georgia. But what excites me about Freeling is you look at him in game 1 versus game 18, and it's a different football player. He was consistently getting better and better with each game at Georgia. That linear, consistent growth is super inspiring. It's super encouraging. I look at that and I say, okay, this guy is coachable. This guy is willing to work, willing to learn, is going to continue to develop. And with his size, with his strength and athleticism, I think he can develop into a true franchise tackle, Now, that being said, as a guy who only has 18 career starts, he does have some lapses. Like, his overall game awareness is definitely lacking. He just needs more reps. His technique in pass pro, especially his lower half with his footwork, definitely needs to continue to grow. And the thing that really got me was his run blocking, because he's not Fano, right? He's not somebody that you're like, brother, why are we not just getting after it? He is somebody, though, that isn't super tenacious. He's not like an ass kicker in the run game. He will get to his spot, get the job done, and walk away happy, and that's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but there does need to be some growth in this area because he is not great at sustaining blocks as is. His targeting system when he's out on the move is very inconsistent. And the most frustrating thing is how often he will stop his feet. He will engage with a blocker, or engage with a defender as a blocker, and then just kind of stop moving. And that shit pissed me off. Like, it was really, really frustrating. But going to Carolina, if they can continue to develop him, he can continue to grow, I think at the very least he's going to be a damn good pass blocker. But if everything comes together in the run game, I think he can be an effective run blocker as well, and that would be a big-time win for Carolina. You have Ike Ekwonu, who is dealing with a rather substantial injury. Don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back. Right side of your line, Taylor Moton, he's not getting any younger, so you needed the tackle help. I think Freeling was definitely the best tackle on the board at this point. Good value. I had him as the 17th best player in the class. You get him at 19. True first-round grade on him. So with all that said, I'm going to give this one a B+. I really do think Freeling has all the tools to be a potential franchise tackle for Carolina. And with uncertainty long-term at both of their starting tackle spots, I think this was a fantastic pick for them. With the 20th pick, the Philadelphia Eagles traded up and selected Makai Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC. And I want to start this off by reading my write-up on Makai Lemon, because I feel like this really gets my thoughts across on him as a player, because I love Makai Lemon. So here's what I wrote. I wrote, I want to start a petition to get Makai Lemon's routes hung in the Louvre, as they are truly a fascinating work of art. Lemon runs routes with the nuance and skill of a 10-year NFL veteran, which is wild considering he only played 3 collegiate seasons. He runs his routes at full speed and with full control, weaponizing tempo and head fakes while mastering the art of deception. He has a tendency to adjust his routes based on the coverage he's seeing, allowing him to create further separation consistently. There is zero wasted motion coming in or out of his breaks, allowing him to cut on a dime and leave defenders in the dust, His career averages of 3+ yards per route run against both man and zone are utterly ridiculous as well. Despite being a smaller player, Lemon is able to consistently win at the catch point thanks to elite hands and full control of his body, which allows him to contort himself into advantageous positioning consistently. He also has managed to develop into a high-level hand fighter, which enables him to keep on track against bigger, stronger DBs and beat press. After the catch, he's a monster, as he can quickly transition from runner to receiver and make guys miss or break tackles consistently. I have seen many compare him to Jackson Smith and Jigba, and while I hate one-to-one comps, I must admit I do see many aspects of his game in Lemon's. Lemon has a chance to be a true game wrecker at the next level, and I'd happily take him within the top 5 in this year's draft if I was a team picking that high. Unfortunately, for the rest of the league, Lemon fell to 20, and he is now a Philadelphia Eagle as the best receiver in this class, in my humble opinion. It's not apparent. I think he is a tremendous route runner. The way he is able to create separation against all types of coverage is unbelievable. And the fact that he not only has that, but also that JSN trait of being a small receiver that does not care about his size and is willing to climb the ladder and make these crazy contested catches is such a huge win. Like, there really is a lot of JSN to Mekhi Lemon, and that dude just won Offensive Player of the Year on the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. Like, he's incredible. No one's going to argue that. I think Mekhi Lemon can be a similar player. You let him fall to the Philadelphia Eagles if you're the rest of the league, and now they can trade A.J. Brown, which we all know they're going to do at some point. And I don't think the fall off is going to be that crazy. Now, granted, Lemon is a much different player than A.J. Brown. He's not this hulking downfield threat, but I do think that will be beneficial for Jalen Hurts. I think Lemon is somebody that is just going to be open, and Hurts would benefit a lot from having somebody that is just open. And I firmly think we're going to be talking about him as a top 10 receiver in football quickly, like very early. And the fact that, again, not only the league let this guy fall to Philly, but the fact that Dallas was the team to set them up to take him blows my mind. I cannot imagine being a Dallas Cowboys fan and watching my team trade back and handing the Eagles, like, the final step to the atom bomb. You know, it's wild. So I think this Lemon pick was fantastic. I really do think my write-up says pretty much everything that I would want to say about him. He's so good. He's so fantastic. I'm going to give this an A+ because I do think this is a steal. I thought he was the 4th best player in the class, and Philly trades up a couple spots to take him as the 3rd receiver off the board. Are you kidding me? Just a tremendous pick. And I know we make the joke every year that, like, Philly did it again, but Philly did it again. They really did. And this was easily one of the better picks of the first round. And with the 21st pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers initially wanted to take Mekhi Lemon, but thanks to the Philadelphia Eagles trading up, they were unable to pull off their dream. Instead, they had to pivot, and they end up selecting Maxi Honachor, the tackle from Arizona State, with the 21st pick. And I think this is one hell of a consolation prize, right? I did think Mekhi Lemon was a better overall prospect. He was higher on my board, as we just talked about, but Honachor was one of my guys in this class. I really liked him out of this crop of offensive linemen because we're talking about a guy who is 6'6", 320 pounds, nearly 34-inch arms, and he moves a lot better than you would think for a guy of his stature, and it comes from like a soccer background where his footwork is really, really polished and really exciting. He can mirror well. He explodes into his kick sets. He explodes off the ball as a run blocker. His movement skills are rare at his size. And while I understand we're talking about a roughly 23-year-old developmental prospect, I think the upside here is very promising. I think we're looking at someone who is going to grow quicker than a lot of other developmental prospects because of how quickly he was adapting and growing throughout his time at Arizona State. He's another guy that if you watch the first game and the last game in his final season at ASU, you're almost looking at a completely different player. Now, there are definitely some areas that do need improved, most notably in his hand usage. He is just a little bit behind the curve with his hand placement. It often lands too wide. His strike timing is also a little bit off. But if he can develop his hands with the way he moves his feet, and with the power that he does have to his profile at his size, you're talking about a franchise tackle. Like, I really do think he has all the makings of a guy up front. And given where Pittsburgh's offensive line is, you have Troy Fotanu on the right side, who I'm a fan of, and then you have Broderick Jones, who really has not panned out so far. It makes a ton of sense to want to prioritize the offensive tackle. I think this is a great decision. They end up getting Jennings Dunker later on as well. I think these are 2 big-time additions to the offensive line. Now, there is a world where Honachor isn't starting right away,
but I do think long-term, reaping the benefits from this one is going to be big time for Pittsburgh. I really like this pick. I really like this player. I'm going to go ahead and give this one an A. The value here is great. The fact that they were able to pivot into somebody that I think is perfect for them was a great decision, and I really cannot say a single negative thing about this pick. With the 22nd pick, the Los Angeles Chargers selected Akeem Mesidor, the edge rusher out of Miami, and this was a fantastic decision. This is such a good player that is going to be an immediate plug-and-play fit for this defensive line, and when you look at the Chargers' current edge rotation, you have Tuli Tuipulotu, who is great. You have Khalil Mack, who is old but still very effective. And then you have a couple other depth guys who are good in certain situations, a couple designated pass rushers, designated run defenders, things like that, excuse me. But Mesidor is going to plug in and be the number 2 right away with the ability to grow into, I think, a true alpha at the edge position. Now, I know we're talking about a 25-year-old rookie. That's what's going to put a lot of people off. But quite frankly, I don't care. When we're talking about age for a draft prospect, the only 2 times I think it truly matters at the NFL level is if we're talking about someone who is underdeveloped or we're talking about a team that is not ready to compete. The Chargers are in a position where they believe they are ready to compete. They want to fight for playoff spots. They want to try to make it to the Super Bowl. They've got the quarterback. They've got weapons around them. If the offensive line stays healthy, they've got a good protection plan there. And defensively, they are working on building that up. Mesidor is somebody that you can drop in right away, and he will be a very, very effective pass rusher. Now, as a run defender, I think he is still solid, but, maybe not at his best, right? So you plug him in with Tuipulotu and Mack especially, and that has the potential to be a 3-headed monster very quickly, because Tuipulotu is still young, still active, still a very good player, and Mack, he's still effective, but in smaller doses, right? He is 35 at this point. He's an edge rusher who primarily wins with power. How much longer is he going to be able to do that? The clock's kind of ticking. He was very effective last year when he was on the field, but we know that clock's ticking. We didn't even know if he was going to play this year. So you bring in Mesidor to kind of be, again, I think right away the 3, and then eventually I think he might even phase out Mack and be the true number 2 next to Tuipulotu, with the potential to even take over him and be the number 1 in this edge room. He is somebody that can win with speed, can win with power, has a good bag of moves, a little bit of bend in there. He is so active with his hands and with his feet, and he is going to be hard to block for NFL linemen. I brought up earlier when we were talking about David Bailey, and then again with Ruben Bain, if you can win with power as an edge rusher, you're cooking with gas. Akeem Mesidor has a very good power profile. He can get his hands into the chest of offensive linemen and drive them back, and that is going to help out a ton. So you look at the Chargers, they bring in, I think, the second best edge in this class. Probably would have been the best edge in this class for me had Ruben Bain not been 5 years younger than him, or 4 years younger than him, excuse me. So I like this pick a lot. I think this is a perfect spot for Mesidor. I think this is a perfect pick for the Chargers. I'm going to go ahead and give them an A for this one. I know I'm handing out a lot of A's, but I really think the first round, apart from a few picks, was very, very good. So I loved this pick for the Chargers. This was a great decision, and I think Mesidor is going to be a fan favorite very quickly. With the 23rd pick, the Dallas Cowboys selected Malachi Lawrence, the edge out of UCF. And this one, I'm really conflicted on because I like the player, but I don't like anything else about the pick, right? Malachi Lawrence was an edge that I felt I was a little bit higher on than the consensus, at least for a while there. I don't know where he ended on the consensus big board, but when I watched him, I was like, wow, this is a round 2 player, and he was sitting early day 3, and I'm over here what are we talking about? This is a guy who, sure, is not a good run defender, but has a lot of what you want as a pass rusher. He's a good hand fighter, has a good bag of moves, can win with speed, has a little bit of power to win with, has a little bit of bend to win with. He's an above average athlete for the position with a lot of the technique stuff that you want. The problem is, I did not think he was a first-round player in the slightest. I would not have even considered him in the first round, especially with some of the other edges on the board. You look at a Gabe Akis, he's somebody that if he would have snuck into the back end of the first round, I would have said absolutely. I think he's a better pass rusher than Lawrence, and I think he has a higher ceiling as a run defender. Sure, Akis is also not great as a run defender right now, but he has the tools, he has the traits, he has the football IQ, I feel, to further develop in that area. Whereas with Lawrence, he is so behind in his processing, cannot set the edge, isn't a consistent block shedder, and really struggles to tackle in space. Lawrence is somebody that you are drafting primarily with the understanding that he's not going to be much of a factor against the run, at least for a while, right? And when you consider Dallas's defense, the fact that Donovan Ezeraku is your other starting edge, and Rashawn Gary is the other notable edge in the room, that's really not a good look for the run defense, because Donovan Ezeraku, as good as he is as a pass rusher, he's too small to be a consistent run defender. He also is going to struggle to set the edge, to shed blocks, things of that nature. And then Rashawn Gary can do all of that stuff, but the effort and consistency just aren't there. So you're banking on somebody who wants to be a good run defender, maybe 1 out of every 3 plays, to be your best run defending edge, and I just can't get behind that. I think that is poor team building philosophy. Not only because you need to be able to stop the run, but especially when you consider what Jerry Jones was so adamant in saying about Micah Parsons once they traded him, it just feels insane to me. Why did they trade Micah Parsons? According to Jerry Jones, a big part of it was because he could not defend the run. So you replace him with 3 edge rushers that can't defend the run. What are we doing here? Like, what is going on in that old senile man's mind? Why is this the decision? And I want to make it clear, I like Malachi Lawrence. I think he can be a productive pass rusher. It's just with Dallas at this spot, I don't see it. And on top of all of that, you make this pick after trading down 3 spots with your division rival Philadelphia Eagles, and you allow them to go up and get Mekhi Lemon. If you had stayed put and taken Malachi Lawrence, they would have had a higher grade because then Pittsburgh would have taken Mekhi Lemon and Philly would have never been able to get their hands on him. But instead, you decide to trade back, you get a couple day 3 picks, whatever, and you enable your division rival to go up and get the best receiver in the class to replace the almost certainly departing A.J. Brown. What are we doing here? And on top of that, by trading back, you lose out on Akeem Mesidor, who I think would have been a substantially better pick for the Dallas Cowboys. Now sure, Mesidor isn't an elite run defender, but he is much better than Lawrence, much better than Ezeraku, and shows way more effort than Gary. At the very least, at that point, you were taking somebody who I think across the board as well is a better pass rusher than Malachi Lawrence. And he can do a little bit against the run. He's a gap shooter. He can get into the backfield. He can set the edge. He can stack and shed from time to time. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I really want to hammer this home. I like Malachi Lawrence. I think he can be a good NFL player. But to go from the highs of the Caleb Downs pick at 11 over here to poor value, poor team building, poor decision making by trading with your rival, and a little bit of like inconsistency with your philosophy and what you want at this position, I just can't get behind it. So with all that being said, I'm going to give this one a C. I do think Malachi Lawrence can be a productive pass rusher at the NFL level. I have no doubts about that. I love his floor, and I do think he has a little bit of a ceiling in that regard as well. So with him and Donovan Ezeraku, that's a good pass rushing tandem on the outside. However, the run defense does matter to me, and it matters even more for the Cowboys because of Jerry Jones's comments. If Jerry Jones had kept his trap shut and just said, we traded Micah Parsons because, we couldn't come to terms on a contract, and that was his main point. He didn't bring up multiple times the whole we want to defend the run thing, then I wouldn't care as much. But it's clear that that is something your team at least claims to care about, and you're going out and you're setting yourself up with 2 undersized pass rushing specialists off the edge, and then Rashawn Gary, who is a good run defender a third of the time, right? Now, you do have the interior guys in Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark, but if I'm one of these teams in your division with a good run game, if I'm the Giants or the Eagles or even Washington last year was a pretty solid running team and should only get better in year 2 of Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt with a healthy Jaden Daniels. If I'm looking at Dallas's defense, I'm saying, okay, run to the outside, beat a linebacker, you're feeling pretty good about it, right? So that, and then also, again, the trade with Philly, setting them up to get, in my opinion, a top 5 player in this class at a position of need for them. It's just really tough for me to love this pick given all the external factors, but I cannot make it clear enough. I do think Malachi Lawrence will have a successful career with the Cowboys,
And, at the end of the day, that's probably all that matters. With the 24th pick, the Cleveland Browns selected Casey Conception Jr., the wide receiver from Texas A&M, and I love this pick for them because you look at Cleveland's receiver room going into this draft, you have Jerry Jeudy, who is like a solid number 2, and then we're looking at Cedric Tillman and Isaiah Bond and Malachi Corley and Jamari Thrash. It's not a great room. So Cleveland prioritized the offensive line with their first pick and then came back and drafted one receiver here and another receiver in the second round, getting Conception and Denzel Boston, who for me were wide receiver 4 and 5. I think their wide receiver room is greatly improved with these two additions, and Conception is definitely the one that I'm more excited about for them because I do believe Conception can be a number 1 receiver in this league. Now, the big gripe against him with his play is going to be his hands. He does have some drop problems, more specifically, anything that is, aimed to be at his body or at his chest, he really struggles with. This is one of the most fixable things in the world for an NFL wide receiver. If you have a receiver who can do literally everything else, and they just struggle at catching the ball every now and then, you can fix that with good coaching and a jugs machine. We've seen it happen before. Devontae Adams, one of the best receivers of this generation, came into the league with a terrible drop problem, and he was able to build that back up, and he, again, became one of the best receivers of this generation. And I don't think Conception is quite Tay Adams. I do think, he is a little behind him in terms of his route running. He has like those TikTok routes that people talk about where there's a lot of wasted movement, trying to almost, not saying he's literally trying to look cool, but it comes off almost as he's trying to look cool as opposed to actually get open. That kind of thing can be frustrating. But outside of that, he's very nuanced with his routes, plays with a lot of tricks up his sleeve to create separation with head fakes, weaponizing his route stems, varying his tempo. He's very hard to guard man-to-man because of his speed and because of his ability to pull off double moves. Very QB-friendly, can win off the line with quick feet. Really good against press coverage despite being a smaller receiver. He's great after the catch, can play inside, can play outside. Was a good punt returner, blocker, like a good blocker in the run game. He has just about everything you want. Again, it is just about the consistency with the hands, and you put him on a jugs machine and you could be cooking with gas. So Cleveland getting him and getting Denzel Boston. I know I'm lumping these together when Boston is a whole different conversation for a different video because that was a second round pick, but I do think these picks complement each other very well. And in hindsight, recording this video after the draft, after all the picks have been made, I really do think it is worth noting those two picks together because Cleveland identified a major weakness in their wide receiver room and attacked it accordingly. Conception, I do think, like I already said, can be a number 1 receiver in this league. I think he can be the standout guy for whoever their quarterback ends up being. And I think this is a great pick. This is another one I'm going to give an A to. The value was perfect. I had him as the 22nd player on my board. He goes here at 24. He was my wide receiver 4. He was the 4th wide receiver off the board. Just tremendous all around for Cleveland. This is one of my favorite picks of the first round. This is one of my guys in this class. And I am really excited to see what he's going to do in Cleveland, hopefully not catching passes from Deshaun Watson. With the 25th pick, my Chicago Bears selected Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon. And this was, maybe a little bit biasedly, my favorite pick of the first round. Thieneman was a player that I absolutely adored. He was a top 5 player on my board, and he slides all the way down to 25, which still kind of blows my mind, but also not really. If Caleb Downs was going to fall to 11, Thieneman falling to 25 makes sense, but I still think it's crazy that the league let these two dudes slide because, again, as I said during the Caleb Downs portion of this video, we are talking about a draft class that was, painted as not having a ton of high-end talent. So when you have that high-end talent, even if it is at a lower value position, quote-unquote, why not take that, right? Caleb Downs and Dylan Thieneman, in my opinion, both should have been top 10 picks in this draft. They both end up falling, and I think Dallas and Chicago, the two teams that lucked out with them falling, are going to benefit from this greatly. In Chicago's case with Thieneman, he is a perfect fit for Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen is a defensive coordinator who likes to get aggressive, likes to do a lot of different things with his safeties, And Thieneman fits this perfectly. He is a rangy, instinctive coverage player who can line up in the box, in the nickel, as a pseudo linebacker, as a split safety, as a single high safety. He can rotate pre and post snap very effectively. He's somebody that just understands the game at a very, very high level. And when it comes to doing like the center fielder stuff, he is the best safety prospect I've seen in the years that I've been evaluating, the 4 or 5 years I've been doing this. He is easily the best true center fielder prospect that's come out. And that's really exciting when you consider the fact that he's going to be paired with Kobe Bryant, a guy who is very good at rotating post snap into like a robber spot, playing underneath, reading the quarterback, taking the ball away, doing things of that nature. Him and Thieneman as a tandem is going to be tremendous for this defense. And not only is Thieneman a fantastic cover player, but he's also a very capable run defender. Now, you do see some of his weaknesses, quote unquote, show up there a little bit more. He will come in too hot at times, come in a little high, miss a tackle here and there. But these are coachable things. These are fixable things, especially for a high IQ player like Thieneman. So bringing him into this defense is a perfect fit. Sure, position value, whatever, I don't care. This is a super fast safety who fits the Bears' desire this offseason, which was to get faster. You look at the two safeties they brought in Kobe Bryant and Thieneman, they are both substantially faster than Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker, who they let walk. Makes a ton of sense. The Bears really went in on the secondary this offseason by adding those two safeties, and Thieneman honestly is the player I am more excited for out of those two, just because of the sky-high upside he has. You're getting a guy who, again, in my opinion, was one of the 5 best players in this class at the 25th pick. The Minnesota Vikings, the team that everyone thought was going to take him, passed on him. You reap the benefits of their mistake, in my humble opinion, and you get a guy who is going to help transform this defense. So I'm giving this one an A+. I really don't have a ton to say about this because I feel like it's so self-explanatory. The Bears had a major need at safety opposite Kobe Bryant, the second best safety in a class that featured a generational safety prospect, a guy who would be the number 1 safety in almost any other safety class over the last couple years. Falls to you at 25, you take him and you don't think twice about it. He is going to be a tremendous fit for Chicago. You go back and you look at some of the Purdue tape as well. He was able to do a lot of things that he didn't get to do at Oregon with playing in the box and, being a better run defender and things like that. It's just so exciting to consider what he can do in this defense. It's just always great when a team like Chicago, that has always been known for their defense, goes out and gets big name defenders. And I really do think Dylan Thieneman is going to establish himself as one of the better safeties in this league very, very quickly. With the 26th pick, the Houston Texans selected Keelan Rutledge, the guard out of Georgia Tech, who will be playing center for them, it looks like. And that makes this evaluation in terms of the pick a little murkier than I had initially graded it, right? Like, I'm recording this after I had recorded all the other ones, because initially I was talking as if Rutledge was a guard, and I gave this a very low grade. Now, knowing that he's going to be a center for them, I am a little higher on it, but not by a lot, because my biggest concerns with Rutledge land with his pass protection, right? Hand placement's poor, his play style is very upright, he's not good against quicker rushers, he really struggles to protect his shoulders. He is going to have problems as a pass blocker. However, at center, it is a lot easier to cover that up. It is a lot easier to say, well, we're going to stick a guard to you on every play, and you're going to be locked in on a double team. I still think if he's left on an island as a pass blocker, he is going to struggle. There are going to be guys who can get in his pads, blow him off the ball, or just get around him, hit him with a spin, whatever, and he's going to struggle to keep with that. But I am sure he is going to find himself in more situations where he is involved in a double team than anything as a pass blocker, as a rookie at the very least, so that will help. Outside of that, we're talking about a guy that's 6'4", 316 pounds, super strong frame, just a pure ass kicker in the run game that really fits their gap scheme, their gap philosophy very well. So I can absolutely see why Houston in particular was high on him. That being said, this is a player who I had a 3rd round grade on, thought was somebody that you look at, towards the middle end of day 2 and say, yeah, I like his upside, I'll bring him in. He's not going to start right away, but we do think he can blossom into a kick-ass run blocker. Instead, Houston's bringing him in and supposedly starting him day 1 at center, and I just don't know how I feel about that right now. I do think
he is somebody that has the upside of, again, a good run blocking center, but it's going to take him a little bit to get there, I do believe. And on top of that, he doesn't have a lot of range or versatility. And granted, again, Houston, more gap schemes than anything, but he is going to limit what you can do. You don't want to just run power. You want to be able to kind of diversify things and run a little bit of everything. Those are the best run games in the league, the ones that can run power, can run zone, can do a little bit of everything. And Rutledge is really going to limit you because he does not have the athleticism as a center to get out in space, to pull, to climb to the second level consistently. It's just not there. So I do like the fit. I will give them that credit, but this is somebody that if we had taken him on day 2, be a lot higher on. And when we get to like overall grades, this will balance out because of their pick in the second round, Caden McDonald. I thought that was a tremendous pick there. If they had taken McDonald here at 26 and then Rutledge in the second round, we'd be cooking with gas. But I can't sit here and play pretend and say, whatever. I'm grading this pick, and by grading this pick, I can't give it any higher than a C-. I think the value is poor. I think this is a reach. You trade up for him, which is also going to ding it. I just don't love this pick for Houston. I do think that Rutledge will be a fine player for them long term. He's definitely somebody that they'll be comfortable with as a starter, and that's a win. But again, at this point in the first round, I do think this was a reach. I'm not a big fan of taking centers in the first round to begin with, and to take one that I don't think is going to be an all-pro caliber guy. This isn't Tyler Linderbaum. This isn't Creed Humphrey, centers we've seen go in more recent years in the first round. He's not one of those guys, and I don't think he will ever be one of those guys because he isn't nearly as good as a pass blocker. So, I'm just a little bit lower on this pick compared to some of the other ones in this class, but I do think Houston had a good class overall. So, balance it out. Do your mental gymnastics if you're a Texans fan. I don't blame you. But for me, for my grade, can't give this any higher than a C-. With the 27th pick, the Miami Dolphins selected Chris Johnson, the corner out of San Diego State. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to keep this one short because I feel like it's pretty straightforward. The main idea here is that the Miami Dolphins just brought in Jeff Hafley to be their head coach. Hafley is a defensive-minded coach who likes to run a lot of zone coverage, and Chris Johnson is one of the better, if not the best, pure zone cover corner in this class, right? Now, I did have a couple guys ahead of Johnson on my board at the time at corner, but I'm going to be honest, I can't fault the Dolphins for passing on them. Avion Terrell is a very different player, somebody who I thought was like more of a pure nickel, or, at the very least, you look at him and you see the injury history. I can understand not wanting to mess with that. Jermod McCoy, he fell all the way to day 3 because of his injuries. I also had him above Johnson. And then D'Angelo Pons, I had above Johnson, but he is 5'8", 182 pounds. I can understand not wanting to go that route in the first round, right? But with Johnson, you're talking about a guy who is 6 foot, 193 pounds, ran a 4.4, like good solid blend of size and athleticism for the position. He can keep up with faster receivers, recover when beat. He's very fluid. He flips his hips well. Very smart in zone coverage with a high understanding of route concepts. He reads and reacts to the ball very quickly. He showed flashes of being able to mirror wide receivers in man coverage. It's just not fully there yet. You got to keep in mind he is still a younger player at only 21 years old. In zone coverage, I loved his eye balance. He did a very good job balancing reading the quarterback with reading the receivers around him. His instincts in zone were fantastic. He's able to feel out routes developing behind him and react accordingly. He's an active hand fighter at the line of scrimmage when pressing. He had a very nice press bail technique when he was asked to press at San Diego State. And coming downhill against the run, he had a very low missed tackle rate. Now that being said, not the strongest guy in the world. His reaction time against the run is not the greatest thing in the world, and he's also going to struggle to disengage with blockers as a run defender. But, you're not drafting him to play the run. You're drafting him to play in coverage. And assuming he continues to grow in man, especially because, he just wasn't asked to play much of it at San Diego State. So if the Dolphins expose him to more man coverage and he's able to grow in that regard, I do think he can become a well-rounded, fully developed corner at the NFL level. There needs to be some work done there, but it is definitely doable because, again, Johnson is a young corner prospect. So I like this pick quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and give it a B because I do think he is a perfect scheme fit for Miami's new defense. Just saying, hey, This is a player who fits what we want. He's young. He fits our timeline. Just a great job across the board from Miami here with the 27th pick. I definitely like this a lot more than their earlier pick with Caden Proctor. With the 28th pick, the New England Patriots selected Caleb Lomu, the offensive tackle out of Utah. And I'll be the first to say Caleb Lomu was far from my favorite tackle in this class. Like, if I'm being totally blunt, if I'm being fully honest, I wasn't Caleb Lomu's biggest fan or anything like that. But that being said, I do think this is a good spot for him, especially considering the fact that all the tackles I had ahead of him were already off the board. He was my OT5 behind Francis Mauigoa and Spencer Fano and Monroe Freeling and Maxi Hanachor. Being OT5, early second round grade on him here, Patriots desperately needed a tackle. This makes a ton of sense. You look at their current tackle room, Will Campbell, I'm not going to write off yet, but there is a world where maybe he has to kick inside to guard. You also have Morgan Moses, who is like 85 years old on the right side of your line. You need to have someone in place to be your potential successor there at the very least, right? Now, I will say Caleb Lomu being the guy is kind of funny because I don't think you could find someone more opposite from Morgan Moses, where Moses is this big, physical, dominant run blocker who like imposes his will on opposing defenders constantly. Caleb Lomu is a bit more passive, right? He's another guy kind of like Fano, who we talked about earlier, that I don't want to call soft. I don't want to say he doesn't want it as much as other guys. He's just not this like true ass kicker. And that's fine. Like, again, you don't have to be a dominant ass kicker that makes defenders cry when they have to line up against you. As long as you're a good pass protector, you're going to get by in this league, especially for the Patriots. That's what they need. They need to make sure Drake May stays upright. And Caleb Lomu, outside of needing to clean up his kick slide and needing to build up his strength against the bull rush, is a very good pass blocker. He's somebody who is a fantastic mental processor against stunts, twists, and blitzes, His range in his kick sets is very good. He plays with very good balance and pad level in pass pro. His hands are active and accurate. He uses a very nice snatch trap technique against guys who kind of lean into him. His anchor has flashes. It has moments. Like, when he's able to reset his hands or his hips against a bull rush, he can anchor. He can drop that anchor and hold his ground as a pass protector. It's just not super consistent. I'd like to see him get a little bit stronger, just build up some of that core strength. If that can become a consistent thing, then Lomu can be a damn good NFL tackle. Now, luckily, he is only, 21 years old. But yeah, like, he's got the size outside of the, true mass. He's 6'6", has nearly 34-inch arms. He's a really good athlete who flies out of his stance, climbs to the second level well, can get out in space and pool. He's a good pass protector. Now, that being said, he does have room to grow as a run blocker. I like his grip strength as of right now. The hand placement and the grip strength is good, but his ability to sustain blocks and his ability to accurately hit guys while out on the move or climbing to the second level, and also on combo blocks, his technique is just iffy. He needs to improve as a run blocker. Thankfully, Morgan Moses is in the building. He would be a great teacher for Caleb Lomu. So I do think Lomu has the upside of a franchise tackle for the Patriots. There is some growth that needs to be had. That will be kind of the determining factor here. But I'm going to give this one a B+. I think they did a great job securing somebody at a position of need that doesn't need to start right away because of Morgan Moses, but, before too long should be ready to get out there and make sure that Drake May is protected and safe. With the 29th pick, the Kansas City Chiefs selected Peter Woods, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. And I want to start this off by addressing his elephant in the room. I know we've done that with a lot of players, but a lot of these guys have big things attached to them. And when it comes to Peter Woods, it's the fact that his production in 2024 was much better than his 2025 production. Usually when that happens with collegiate players, either we're talking about someone who didn't play as much their final year because of an injury, or someone who started to regress, and that's not a great sign for a draft pick, I think the best example to look at in recent memory with that is Miles Murphy, ironically also a Clemson player who, a lot of people loved pre-draft, and I never got on the bandwagon. I never saw it. I was Miles Murphy's biggest hater coming out of the draft, and I've been vindicated. He has not been a good NFL player because between
his second to last year and his last year, he really took a step back. With Peter Woods, however, I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think his issues are really like a lot of his fault necessarily, because if you look at his final year, there were two major like factors that kind of contributed to his lack of production. Number one, we're talking about someone who was asked to play 30 pounds lighter than he did the year before. That's going to mess you up. That's a substantial weight loss that, is going to hurt the way he moves his body and probably put him in a lot of uncomfortable situations and made him a little less consistent. Additionally, if you look at how teams played against Clemson, they really were not letting their defensive line get home. It was a lot of running the ball, RPOs, quick throws, and this applied to him and TJ Parker. Like, these guys did not get a lot of true pass rushing opportunities because of the way opposing offenses were playing Clemson. They didn't want to give these guys the chance to get to their quarterback. So when you have all that going against you, sure, maybe you can make the argument that, like, if Peter Woods was really this great, he would have dominated and gotten through the line. That's a fine argument to make. We're talking about a draft class that's not necessarily filled with star-studded talent. Peter Woods has the highest upside, I think, of any of the defensive tackles in this class, other than Caleb Banks, whose foot exploded. So I can't get mad at them, or mad at the Chiefs, rather, for making the pick here. I liked Peter Woods. I had him as the 16th ranked player on my board, number 1 DT overall. He is someone who is super athletic, has a very explosive lower half, very good lateral quickness. His play strength is very good thanks to having a bulky lower half and very strong arms. He explodes off the ball, often initiating first contact. The thing that I love about Woods the most is also something that really frustrates me about Woods, and that is how deep his bag of pass rushing moves is. He is somebody that has a bunch of swims and swipes and rips and dips and all sorts of things that he can deploy, but none of them are like fleshed out. None of them are perfected. He's kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none with his hand usage. And it's frustrating because he has the baseline for a lot of things. He just needs to build off that baseline and perfect like a handful of them, right? It doesn't have to be a ton, just like a go-to move and a couple counters off of it, and he would find a lot of success with his blend of strength and athleticism. Hopefully, playing next to Chris Jones, he'll be able to get that figured out because Chris Jones is one of the best pass rushing DTs of the last 25 years. That would be great for him, right? That is going to be a very good mentor for him to have. He's also somebody that does have a good bull rush. He can win with power and finesse. He can stack and shed as a run defender. I like Peter Woods a lot. Outside of the underwhelming production in 2025 and needing to flesh out his arsenal, I feel he can be a very, very good football player. The one other thing that I do want to include too is it felt like a lot of times he was chasing stats as opposed to trying to maintain gap discipline or executing his assignment. It was just kind of like a all or nothing mentality with him, which is fine in college, whatever. But when you get to the league, you can't be like that. It's bigger than you, And I don't want to sit here and try to make Peter Woods out to be like some arrogant, self-absorbed asshole or something like that. I don't know the guy. I don't think that's the case. It was just clear that he would have rather made the tackle than let his teammate get in there or open up for a teammate to make a tackle, and that did cost Clemson at times. He would miss tackles, he would leave his gap open, and guys would have a cutback lane. Whatever the case may be, that is something that needs to be cleaned up at the next level, and I have no doubt that NFL coaches will be able to fix it. So overall, I'm going to give this one an A. I think this is a great pick, good value, good player, good fit. Can't really say anything negative about it. I like Peter Woods. I think he'll be one hell of a Chief. Him and Chris Jones together on the interior of that defensive line with a hopefully healthy Omar Norman Lott should be a very, respectable interior pass rushing group and should hopefully take some of the pressure off of their edge room. With the 30th pick, the New York Jets selected Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver out of Indiana, and I'm going to say up front, A grade for me. Love this pick. Love this pick. This is a fantastic pick for the Jets. First and foremost, had him as my receiver 5. He's the 5th receiver off the board. Second of all, value's good. Had him as the 26th best player in the class. You get him here at 30. Plus, he is the perfect complement to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is somebody who, would be benefited greatly from having a receiver next to him who is great after the catch and wins underneath consistently. What are the two most attractive parts about Omar Cooper Jr.'s game? Goodness gracious, I'm so excited I can't use my words properly. It is the fact that he is a demon after the catch, and he wins underneath consistently. He's also somebody who has good physicality to haul in the tough catches. He has really reliable hands, really good body control. He's a good route runner. He's just like a do-it-all type of player that's going to plug in perfectly as a number 2 in this offense. Now, one thing I would have said pre-draft about Omar Cooper Jr. is I did not think he could be a true number 1 in an offense. Don't have to worry about that with Garrett Wilson. He's obviously your number 1. That's not a debate. Omar Cooper Jr. is your number 2? Hell yeah. Absolutely. Tremendous fit. Now, looking at some of the weaknesses just to get them out of the way, his catch radius isn't crazy, his route tree isn't crazy, and his drops, aren't an issue, but he had some really ugly ones. So, basically, we're talking about somebody who didn't get a lot of opportunities to run a super diverse route tree. He really doesn't need to for this Jets offense. If you find out he can run a super diverse route tree, that's just the icing on the cake, right? But as of right now, if you can just get him to win deep by taking the top off the defense, which he has the athleticism to do, and just win underneath, that's fantastic. That's great. And honestly, looking at this offense, I don't want to gas up Geno Smith too much because we know he's not quite what he was when he didn't right back. But when he was succeeding, you look at the Seahawks offense, it was with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. You had a guy who won downfield, was physical at the catch point, made these absurd grabs, and then also somebody who was a bit more of just kind of got open zone beater type of player. I think these two can absolutely be that for Geno Smith, assuming he's the starter. Maybe Cade Klubnik surprises everybody and ends up being the starter. I don't think that'll be the case, but I do think these are two guys that, fit well together and can complement Geno's skill set. You also have the added bonus of Omar Cooper Jr. being a rack threat that Tyler Lockett really was not. So I love this pick. This is something I have been saying the Jets should get for a little bit now, especially last year when they had Justin Fields, because we saw Justin Fields thrive with a rack threat type receiver. I know he's not there anymore, but it did apply, right? And I remember last year I was like, they should take Luther Burden because he would fit so well. They didn't take Luther Burden. The Bears ended up getting Luther Burden. And then when I was doing my Omar Cooper Jr. comp, I was like, oh, he reminds me a lot of DJ Moore, who Justin Fields found a ton of success with. I know I'm clinging to Fields as if he's still on the Jets. The point is just this type of player is something the Jets offense did not have. They did not have this run after catch demon that will take a slant 80 yards to the house. They did not have that. Now they do. I like Omar Cooper Jr. a lot. I think he's a great fit with the Jets. Easy A for me, like I said. The Jets are doing a great job team building. They just got to get that quarterback. Offensively, they've got the line. You've got Kenyon Sadiq. You've got Omar Cooper and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. They get that quarterback and bulk up their defense a little bit. They really can be something serious. So I love their pass catcher room now. Mason Taylor as well as their true inline tight end. Really exciting stuff for the Jets. If nothing else, they're going to be a really fun Madden team next year. With the 31st pick in the draft, the Tennessee Titans selected Keldrick Falk, the edge rusher out of Auburn. And I don't love this pick. I'm not a Keldrick Falk guy. I did not buy the hype with Falk at all. I see a big defensive lineman who is going to be a great run defender. Do not get me wrong. At 6'6", 276 pounds with 34 plus inch arms, he's a really good run defender as it stands. He's somebody who stacks and sheds with ease, can set the edge and two gap thanks to having a really strong anchor. His diagnostics and gap discipline are great. He's going to be a damn good run defender. The problem is that he's not an athlete and really doesn't do much as a pass rusher. This is not some twitchy athletic defensive lineman. This is a borderline true defensive tackle. And when we're talking about someone who isn't a good athlete, doesn't have a high-end first step, and isn't going to jolt blockers upright as a pass rusher, doesn't have an arsenal, doesn't have really any bend, and is just really inconsistent with his bull rush, I don't love it. Now, I will say, it is good that they get the fifth-year option for Falk, because I do feel like if he catches on, it's not going to be until year 2, year 3, maybe even year 4. But he's not somebody I would have taken in the first round. I just don't think he is a first-round talent. And again, I mentioned this with some of the edges earlier. You look at some of the names that are available. Gabe Akis, Zion Young, if you really wanted a run-stuffing edge. I don't
love the idea of Keldrick Falk being a first-round pick. I respect the run defense. I think it is, very important and very undervalued in today's NFL, but he currently brings nothing to the table as a pass rusher. Genuinely brings nothing. He is only 20, so there's a ton of upside. But again, I'm just not with it. I'm not with it. If he can get better with his bull rush and at least push the pocket a little bit, then I can get behind it more. If he builds out his arsenal, great for him. At this current moment, I'm going to give it a C because there is upside here with Falk, and the floor as a run defender is nice. I just think the value is poor. Item is the 55th best player in this class. He's not a name I would have taken in the first round point blank period. I get the 5th-year option, and that is good for the Titans, but trading up to go get this caliber of player just feels like a waste to me. I can't get behind this pick. And finally, with the 32nd pick, the Seattle Seahawks selected Jadarian Price, the running back out of Notre Dame. And I know a lot of people fell in love with Jadarian Price. I thought he was good, just not great, I didn't have him as my RB2. I liked Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska more, and I know he fell a lot. But Price is not somebody I would have taken in the first round. Now, I do understand Seattle kind of walked themselves into a corner where they desperately needed a running back, and this was not the class to take a risk on waiting on a running back, right? If they didn't take him here, there's a good chance someone would have taken him early in the second round, and then you would have been screwed, outside of taking Emmett Johnson, but clearly the league didn't value him as much as I did, so, this class outside of those two, Jeremiah Love, obviously, and then Eli Heidenreich, who I was super high on, this was not a class I was a fan of. I only had 4 running backs graded before day 3 this year, whereas we go back to last year, it was 15, right? This was not a good running back class by any means, so I understand them reaching for a running back. They're still going to get dinged for reaching, but it's an understandable reach. Now, looking at Jadarian Price, he has a good frame at 5'11", just over 200 pounds. He has good burst. He's able to plant his foot and get upfield once he locates a hole. He gets up to his top speed quickly. He's a smooth, fluid mover who maneuvers away from defenders consistently. Not the most powerful runner, but definitely someone who can fall forward for extra yards and run with a little bit of pop behind his pads. He has really, really good vision and patience. His solid contact balance allows him to slip off of defenders, spin out of tackles. He's able to make guys miss in tight quarters with subtle, effective footwork. He has 3 kickoff return touchdowns on just 22 attempts, and he averaged about 6 yards per carry throughout his collegiate career. I definitely see the appeal. I don't think Jadarian Price is some terrible running back. I don't think he's garbage. I don't think he's irredeemable. I don't think this is a total waste of a pick for Seattle or anything, even though I'm not super high on it. But I do have my concerns. He was never a true starter in college, which is definitely worth noting. I understand he was sharing a backfield with Jeremiah Love, which makes things difficult. It's just one of those things where I would have liked to see him have a full workload. His power profile isn't anything special. He's not somebody that's going to make guys miss often. His jump cut is lacking. He's more of a true north-south runner. Ball security was an issue, had quite a few fumbles. His receiving ability is a complete and total projection with minimal opportunities in college. His pass pro is a work in progress. He has his issues. I have my concerns with the level of, usage he was seeing with his workload, things of that nature. But again, for Seattle, where you lose Kenneth Walker to free agency, Zach Charbonnet is probably not playing this upcoming season, they needed a running back. I do feel there could have been other avenues they could have explored that wouldn't have cost a first-round pick. But again, I do understand not wanting to risk letting Jadarian Price fall, right? There's no guarantee he would have been there for their next pick. So I get it. I don't love it. I can sit here and say I understand the thought process, but I don't agree with it, right? All that being said, I do think the bigger issue is Seattle letting Kenneth Walker walk. I know money was tight or whatever, but if you're going to put yourself in a position where you're this desperate for a running back, just tag Kenneth Walker. Just force him to play for you for another year. Can't imagine he would have been too upset about trying to run it back for a ring. I just feel like that should have been the move instead of spending a first-round pick on Price. Now, I've seen some people say this is the worst pick of the first round. I don't agree with that. I'm going to give this one a C+. I think it's fine. I think it's whatever. I have my complaints. I have my issues. It's more about the value and the process of taking a running back in the first round. I don't think Jadarian Price was a round one talent at running back. But as I've said in this class, it wasn't super talented beyond the top couple guys. There's a lot of like equality in the talent between everyone beyond the 20th pick or so. I can understand throwing positional value out of the window just to make sure you get a guy you're confident in. Again, I'm not a huge Price fan, but I see why Seattle decided to go with him with the final pick in the first round. But there you have it, folks. Those are my first round grades for the 2026 NFL Draft. You can see all 32 grades lined up on your screen in case you skipped around the video or just wanted to jump to the end to see the grades, whatever it may be. They're laid out for you. And again, I'm sorry this video took so long. I really did have every intent on getting this out before the end of April, and then things happened, got busy, had some technical errors with my editing software. DaVinci was kicking my ass throughout the month of May. So, we did finally get it done. I'm happy with it. I'm very proud of this video. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you, because this is borderline a passion project for me. This video is because of how long it took and how much effort and time went into it. So again, thank you if you made it this far in the video. Make sure to let me know down in the comments below if you watched the whole thing, and also just what your thoughts were on the first round of the draft. Your favorite pick, your least favorite pick, where you agree with me, where you don't, anything like that. I'd love to hear from you. And make sure to subscribe for more draft content coming your way throughout the rest of this month. I'm still going to be talking about the draft, even though everyone's kind of over it. I have opinions and videos and ideas that I want to do. I'm very excited about. And I also have some other fun football and NFL content planned for the rest of the summer that you won't want to miss. We're going to be having a big summer. I'm very excited. I have some big plans, some big ideas, so you definitely won't want to miss any of that. And also make sure to leave a like down below, because again, I put a ton of effort into this video. It would mean a lot to me if you just take the 2 seconds, like the video. It's free, helps out the channel a ton. It shows your support, it shows you care, and I really cannot stress enough how much I appreciate it. And above all else, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you all had a wonderful day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoyed it, because you're all wonderful people, and you truly do deserve it. And of course, happy Pride Month.
Had a chance on the throwback. This was an ill-advised throw. What an unbelievable catch by Cole Kmet. And he cups it too. No movement when he hits the ground, tucked up against his shoulder.
Wow. Using that